Three, two, one, and hello, everybody. And welcome to a brand new podcast series here on Super Mater Brothers podcasting channel. Hello, I'm Dave Mater, and it is Friday, March 12th, 2021. And we are here. I'm joined with Jaemeel Robinson and Ashley Millard, and I think Kevin Millard's in the background too. We're here to cover WandaVision of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is the beginning of the MCU podcast series. This is where we're starting. We're starting in 2021, but the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been going strong since 2008. So this is the I think the 13th year of the universe. And I've been watching all along. So have the rest of the people on the panel. We're excited to talk about all this. This is the first small screen, I guess, project really to be MCU. So let's get into that this evening. Jaemeel, how are you?
I'm okay. Thanks you for asking. How are you doing?
I'm good. I've just been talking a long time. I need to talk to my guests here and get into this. Ashley, how are you?
I'm good.
That's good. We've been saying we got to talk about WandaVision. We got to talk about this new show, the Disney Plus streaming projects, the Super Mater Brothers podcasting. I've long wanted to do something MCU since we launched this channel. I was hoping it was actually going to be the Black Widow movie. That was supposed to be what it was going to start with, but that all got delayed because of the pandemic. However, what is great for pandemic are streaming shows. And this WandaVision piece debuted in January of 2021. So yeah, we're just about maybe 2 months later here, or 3 months later. After this is all debuted, there were 9 episodes of this show that came out. Wow. Okay, let's. I don't know. Where do we even? We're gonna go through every episode. We're gonna talk about all the season, all the characters, everything that happened. But maybe where's a place to start? Let's maybe Jaemeel.
Okay, how about conceptually, when you first heard that they were making a show and naming it WandaVision, what was your initial reactions to this news?
Yes. Okay, good question. Thank you. So there was all this news that there was going to be all these new streaming shows that came out. This was around the time, I think, after Avengers Endgame had come out, right? And we kind of knew that chapter, maybe the Infinity Saga had ended and there was going to be sort of this new world. And they said that a lot of it was going to be streaming. So they announced like WandaVision. They announced like The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and a bunch of movies too, like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness all at once. So my reaction to all of that at when it came out was amazing. Give me all of this all day long. I really love this. And now, Jaemeel, I don't want to hit a nerve here. Oh. But I was not as much of an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. buy-in person, because it did early in the early seasons, but it fell more and more off of the MCU's with how it integrated with the canon. I think that this is a much more worthwhile small screen endeavor tie-in with the MCU.
Ooh, worthwhile. That hurt.
I know. Sorry. Or more, it just more my style, I guess, too. Now, if there was an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. comic book, I would definitely not read it either. So it's I'm just saying, like that subject matter doesn't appeal to me so much. I wouldn't watch a sword show either. The other organization that's featured
Jimmy Woo and Darcy's show you wouldn't watch or read the book?
I might watch those two, but I don't want to watch Hayward and Monica Rambeau doing pseudo FBI kind of CIA kind of stuff. That's secret agent stuff. I accept it exists in this world in the MCU, but it's not the stuff I'm drawn to, and that's okay. It all works
I figure you would be all about the spy life, different costume changes. That was really it.
Hey, I like secret agent stuff, but it's when in a world where there are superheroes, secret agents feel a little maybe what's the word?
Passe?
They're just not. They're not as relevant to me.
Okay.
Ashley, what was your reaction to all knowing that this WandaVision concept was coming? We were going to get this sitcom, and Vision's dead as we enter this storyline. But
when they announced it, did they just announce the title, or did they also give us an overview of what it was going to be? Because I remember when I first heard about it, I had no idea what the show was going to be. I think they announced it before Endgame. Like, I think I could be wrong, but did they announce
maybe
it
the
in
news
between Endgame and Infinity War?
I believe it was announced before Endgame,
Yeah.
because we already knew that Vision was dead, right?
Yeah.
So everyone was like, "Well, oh yeah, Vision's gonna come back in Endgame." Okay, when they bring all these people
Yeah,
back,
they
because we knew
didn't. Yeah.
Spider-Man was, there was already like the assumption that people were coming back because all this things were happening, like Spider-Man, I
Yeah.
believe Eternals, Shang-Chi, and I don't think anything past those three
They announced
were
Thor: Love and
officially
Thunder
announced.
at the same
Yeah,
time.
Thor: Love and Thunder was announced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and,
I
and
remember,
Guardian 3.
I remember finding out that the show was coming, but not knowing what it was about until later. I don't know if I just didn't pay attention or if maybe it was announced what was going to be happening. But I was excited because I have always liked Wanda and Vision in the movies. So I was excited to see more and a show based on them.
Yeah, and just for a little bit of background, I did look it up while we were talking here. So they were first starting to put together projects like this back in 2009, like when
Wow.
that's even before even Vision debuted on in the movie in Age of Ultron, and so they were looking at shows, but it was really during when they were doing the press after Infinity War. So it would have been after Infinity War, but I guess before Endgame came out. And officially, like they were saying, like we might do this, we might do a Scarlet Witch show, and we kind of want Vision to be part of it. And they officially said on October 30th, 2018, that this was kind of going ahead. And but it wasn't like officially announced. So it was after the premiere. It was during the premiere event for Endgame that Elizabeth Olsen revealed that WandaVision would start production in fall of 2019, which is when they shot this show. So it was kind of in the works for years, but like it really came to fruition as I think, especially if they figured out they were going to keep around these two characters, if they were going to like keep both of these actors on contract past sort of when they had written up to the Infinity Saga, and I'm I will say that I like as big of a fan of I am of the MCU, and even and there have been like stumbling block points. I think there are weaker chapters, episodes in the thing, and I think Age of Ultron is maybe an example of that.
Yes.
Wasn't as it's of the four Avengers movies, I think it's the weakest of the four. It is the debut of both of these characters, Vision and the Scarlet Witch. I think Scarlet Witch had been or she's just Wanda Maximoff, as she's really known for most of these first 7 years. She was teased in a post credit scene, I think in Thor 2 or something like that.
The biggest of the Thor movies, so that makes sense.
Yeah, so they were kind of like saying, "Oh, watch out, they're coming. Thor and Quicksilver are coming." But this was during the time when Fox owned the X-Men, and so I also had I'm happy they're there, but I'm also disappointed that we don't have Magneto. They're not mutants. We don't have that tie-in with the X-Men that the comic book world has, and which is no longer an issue now that
canon in the comic books, Magneto is her father, correct?
Yeah, both of them. Yeah, Quicksilver
and because they're twins.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, he's their dad. And they're mutants, and they're part of the evil mutant brotherhood or whatever they're called. For a long time, but
the MCU couldn't call them mutants. They weren't allowed to call anyone mutants until
no. Because X-Men owned the license to say mutant at the time, or Fox, I'm sorry, had that license. So yeah, they couldn't say those things. You couldn't call them. So they're separate. Like, and we saw even in the show, we see her parents or their parents. I keep forgetting about Pietro because he's been gone. He was only in the one movie.
Yes.
And he was gone, but that was also good for her character because we allowed this Scarlet Witch character to develop over the set of all the movies that came after it, and this Vision, because she was kind of alone, and they had this connection right from the movie, which kind of worked. So So all those things, I was kind of just apprehensive about bringing Vision back. If you brought him back to life, would his death still have meaning? In what happened? Like first, she tries to kill him in Infinity War, but then Thanos reverses time and kills him afterward anyway, and takes the Mind Stone, and that's the end of him. And so it's this pretty devastating loss. It feels like just from that, like if that moment had happened after like this show or a show like this where we could have been more invested in these two of these characters, I think that Infinity War, that would have been even so much more of a gut punch. I want to go back and watch Infinity War now because I care. I'm so much more invested in Vision and Wanda now than I ever was before this year.
Isn't that a little bit of a chicken and egg scenario? You cared so much about them because of what happened, right? Leading you to watching this trauma unfold, right? So therefore now you have a greater appreciation for the characters. Now, if it was the other way around, there might not be the context or through line for you to care about their trauma leading to that tragedy.
Yeah, I think you might have a point there. Like they had to, I Vision in particular was not a character I was super familiar with, like prior to him even coming in Age of Ultron. Like I knew who Vision was. Like I'm a casual comic book reader, and so I'm not always up to speed on every Avengers crossover that ever took place in the comic books, but I was vaguely aware of the mythology around him and even the relationship with Wanda. So when they're making googly eyes at each other in Age of Ultron, it was like, yeah, they're probably gonna go there with these two characters. But originally, like just how Sokovia was presented in that movie and everything else, like I think I was feeling like there's no Magneto. These two talk like they're from Transylvania in Pietro and Wanda, like because it's a fictional country that doesn't exist, so it's a nondescript Eastern European accent. And they were and their arc from going from villain to hero in that movie is it's so quick for a movie to try to do that, like where they're tied up with Ultron and they're in Hydra, right? Initially, the two of them, Wanda and Pietro, and then when they realize that Ultron is planning to use their entire city to drop it on the planet to destroy the entire Earth, then they go, oh well, we're not on board with this anymore. We just thought we were helping you fight Tony Stark or whatever. So like I think that they're flipped from bad to good compared to even their comic book versions where they got there a little bit more gradually, right? Like,
So okay, I have a little feelings about you saying that they were evil or bad.
Okay. Let's talk about that.
They were obviously dealing with a lot of trauma, especially since growing up and dealing with how they were brought into the MCU characters, right? Like, so their first introduction to Tony Stark was him basically being responsible indirectly for killing their parents, and having them tortured by this bomb in front of them for 2 days until
it says Stark across it. No, and it made it like and paying that off in this show like they did, because I think that was in like episode 7 or 8 that we got like the flashback to when Wanda and Pietro were kids and when that happened with Tony Stark. And I think that having all that in this makes Age of Ultron, like they've kind of like retconned the things I didn't like about that movie and now have made that movie super strong for me. Like even the flashbacks we got here, like, because that was the movie that maybe they could have shied away from. No, they leaned in hard in this show, and we're like, that might not be everyone's favorite movie, but like Jody famously he's not a fan of Age of Ultron, our friend Jody.
Jody's not a fan of a lot of things.
Yeah. I just remember he was like, that's the worst Avengers movie ever. And he was
there's like, only 4. It's like
and it was before the third one even came out. But it was because it was a bit of a letdown, I think, because the first one's better, I think, than the second one.
Well, okay, I think that was a transitional period for a lot of things for Marvel, the MCU and Marvel in general.
Mhm.
Um, I think it was a case study with Kevin Feige kind of gaining that power. Um, and when I say power, there were two kind of powerhouses in the Marvel entertainment world. There was Ike Pelletimeter.
This was like the big guy that like Feige had to report to for a long time.
Yeah, but he who mostly focused in a lot in television stuff, but was also kind of overseeing the Marvel movies as well. And then Kevin Feige was like kind of looking after the movies and shepherding it. So Ike had very interesting takes, to say the least, which was uh, don't make a Captain Marvel movie, no one's going to go and see it. Don't make a Black Panther movie, no one's going to go and see it. Don't do the talking raccoon movie, no one's going to go and see it.
And then they all went and saw those movies, didn't
and leaned heavily in like Agents of Shield was partially under like Ike's banner.
But wasn't also Inhumans under his banner too, or was part of
yes,
his,
Inhumans was, but also at the same time, so was the Netflix shows as well. Right. So,
so
it wasn't
but
all swings and misses.
Yeah, I agree. I'd say all that stuff is I acknowledge it's part of MCU sort of, but but it's also sort of inferior to everything Feige has produced.
Don't necessarily agree with that.
Ashley, what do you think? What do you think of everything we've said so far? Where's your head at?
I mean, there's some of the movies that are inferior to some of the TV shows, and some of the movies that are better than the TV shows. I like some of the TV shows. I dislike some of the TV shows. I also dislike some.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying too. I'm saying like I have ups and downs.
No,
but
you were like Kevin Feige made everything superior to the things. That was your statement.
Well,
thank you, Ashley, for agreeing with me.
But I think
but you didn't. But you can't disagree with me.
And especially with the movies, I think it comes down to like directors and stuff too.
It does. All those movies and all, but I think like having sort of like a common vision, a thread throughout of it. Like I think I lay most of the credit for that to Favreau, Feige, a few other people, right?
Yeah,
and
I agree.
You can't have two people at the top that are butting heads, or it's not going to be cohesive.
Right. And that's kind of what Jaemeel is saying is like, that's why Age of Ultron maybe has a couple blemishes or sort of weird things in it where like Thor kind of runs off in the middle of that movie. But I want to talk about that movie. I kind of want to talk more about this show. Let's get back to this show and coming off of, there was Avengers Endgame in 2018 or 19. It was 19.
No,
because
no, it was 2018 pandemic year. Wait, no, I'm wrong. No, wait, no. Endgame was 19.
Infinity War is 18.
Yes. Okay.
Ironically, though, because of the 5-year time jump between Infinity War and Endgame, this pandemic might actually help catch us up in this time frame, because this whole year where we're kind of sitting around, time's not really moving for us. Because all the events of WandaVision take place in the year 2023, which is 2 years from now. So they're kind of because there was this 5-year time jump where half the population was snapped, which we get to see a little bit of in this movie, more so than, well, I don't want to say more so, but we get added, more is added than what we saw in the other installment we had in here, which was the Spider-Man movie, Far From Home, which is the first real Marvel Cinematic Universe thing to come out after Endgame, kind of dealing with the repercussions of this massive event. And
it's still phase 3. Still phase 3 though.
Still phase. So it was kind of like the final, like, okay, and now life's getting back to normal after this. But there's no way that this couldn't be a huge deal, right? And so this is what happens now, because we saw Wanda Maximoff was part of that big battle against Thanos, the Battle of Earth, and we don't get anything in between. The show just jumps right in. It's Wanda and Vision in the 1950s sitcom driving through in their car. That's how the show starts. And there's no other context given.
No context.
Yeah, and that's the beginning. So we can get into the plot of the show and kind of how we were feeling as we were going. Jaemeel and I were watching week to week. Ashley, you binge watched it all.
Yes.
In a short time. So Jaemeel and I have a bit of a different experience. You had told us before that you really enjoyed the whole series. You would watch it twice, actually.
I watched it twice in the same day.
Wow. How long did it take you to watch it, like sitting down? Like, I'm sure I could look it up in
4.5 hours.
4.5. Okay. That's it. So it's
for
like
one viewing. So I watched it a total of 9 hours on Wednesday.
So it's a 4.5 hour versus like the 9 weeks that Jaemeel and I were kind of watching like 30
I
minutes at a time.
watched it like it was
She watched a Snyder cut length.
That's
she
right.
watched the Snyder cut.
That's right.
Okay. So it's how would you think of it as, like, if it was just like one long 4-hour movie, which is sort of what it is, but not. Would it be enjoyable, or would that be too long?
I mean, that's how I watched it, and I enjoyed watching it that way. And I waited to binge watch it until it was all there on purpose. That was a conscious decision that I made when the first couple episodes dropped. I was like, no, I'm going to wait, because I did that with Mandalorian season 2, and I enjoyed sitting down and just watching it from start to finish. I'm a binge watcher through and through. I don't like watching things week to week. And I am glad that I watched it the way I watched it. But
let me rephrase, though. If you were going to the movie theater and there was
4.5 hours. 4.5 hours is way too long at a movie theater. It's fine at home because you can pause it, you can go pee, you can pause it to make food. But at a movie theater, you're just kind of stuck there. Like, it felt short for me. Watching it felt shorter than the like 3 hours and whatever minutes Endgame was. Felt longer because you're sitting in a movie theater.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a different experience. You can't get up and go to the bathroom. You can't pause it, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can later on when it's on home video, but it's they, in theory, this, like, to me, like, this was the WandaVision. This was the Wanda and Vision movie that we never got, but it was told in this Disney Streaming Plus format, which I really enjoyed. I think that this is because I think, like, to my earlier comment about Age of Ultron, that they were trying to cram too much in that arc. They were trying to, like, Pietro and Wanda's redemption, or them flipping sides. I think it's just they did it fine, but it could have been paid off better in something like this, where you have, like, a longer period
of time, yeah,
to build on that. That's all.
I just feel that just a little brief nugget about Age of Ultron. Their hands were tied in terms of how they dealt with the Maximoffs. They had to, get them in, get Pietro out as quickly as possible because of the deal they had with Fox. So Pietro wasn't going to be in another movie outside of that one. So it was kind of cut and dry that this arc needs to happen in the movie, as opposed to it, like, it would have been more organic if it happened over the course of maybe a movie and change, or 2 movies, where you at least kind of get to see, like, he was part of the team for a hot second and now she's alone, right? So,
well, it ended up working out really well. All these, like, who owned the rights to what, because it's that the whole thing was that like, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, they're part of the X-Men part things, like, because obviously Magneto and everything, but they're also members of the Avengers. And because Marvel and Disney and whatever owned Avengers, but Fox owned X-Men, both these characters were in this gray zone where they were kind of part of both. And that's why we had 2 Quicksilvers at the same time, and Evan Peters and who played the other one?
Tyler Everett Johnson?
Not Tyler. But you're on to you're close. The guy from Kick-Ass.
Okay.
You know who I mean. Aaron Taylor Johnson. Aaron Taylor. Yeah, that's, I'm like, that. It's not quite right, but you're on, like, the right track. It's Aaron Taylor Johnson. Yes. So and that's why that happened. But it's how it created the Scarlet Witch herself. I like this version of the Wanda Maximoff character now that's been forged through what had to happen, to your point, Jaemeel, like, that they had to take Quicksilver, her brother, away from her, basically, and make her own character, and get to the Vision romance too, which was worked out. But let's go to Ashley. Ashley, when we jumped in here, we start this opening scene. they are driving into town, and they go into their new dream house. What are you thinking? What's your initial thought as this story begins? We just see Wanda and Vision in TV land.
I went in not expecting a whole lot from the first couple of episodes because I had waited so long to see it, and several people that I know that had watched it or Marvel fans had said the first couple episodes are weird, just stick with it. So I went in just like, okay, well, I'll just watch the first couple. I actually loved the first 2 episodes. I grew up watching a lot of old 50s and 60s sitcoms. So the first 2 episodes were just like, they hit right for me because I did grow up watching the Dick Van Dyke Show and Bewitched and like Mary Tyler Moore, like all of those I loved. I'd come home from school and throw on Deja Vu and watch all of those shows. I loved them. So I actually really, really, really enjoyed the first 2 episodes. I think they did a fantastic job with them.
Yeah, well, me too. And like, but I think that for Jaemeel and I and a lot of the audience who were watching week to week, because they released the first 2 episodes together. They came out the first night, right? So but you don't get answers until that 4th episode. Like, what the heck is going on? You just get little teasers.
They get little nuggets that there's something else going on.
Yes. And the outside world is sort of looking in or something. And but we don't know enough. And I think that the audience, after 3 weeks of that, because the 3rd episode doesn't give a lot more answers, other than we see Monica Rambeau eventually, Geraldine as she's known at that point.
She got yeeted out of the
she gets drop kicked out of the hex in that 3rd episode. But I think for the first 3 weeks, I think people were going, "Oh man, what is this? What's going on? Vision is dead, and they're in a TV universe. And there's weird commercials and theme songs, and I don't know what's going on, right?" And I think once I was kind of feeling a little bit of that too. It wasn't until that 4th episode I go, okay, like there's a little bit more backstory, and the more of the detail they filled in about what had even happened, how they ended up here, the more satisfied I was. But Ashley, you didn't have to wait those 3.
No, I had to wait about an hour and a half, so that was great.
A movie's length.
Yeah.
That's right. I was just getting towards the last half an hour of a movie when it got paid out for me. So
yes, but
don't forget to tip your barmaid.
That's right.
Ashley.
I will.
Jaemeel, I know you and I are both fans of TV, and this whole thing, and like I don't know what your opinion are on these more retro sitcoms, the 50s and 60s.
Yeah,
I was in. Like, people complaining about what's going on. Like, I watch anime all the time. The first, like, there could be like 10 episodes before they actually get to what the series is about, and you're just left like wondering what exactly is the mystery of it. So I'm used to it. Like, the first 2 episodes, we got it like back to back. So really, it was only by the 3rd session we already had answers given to us, right?
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Plus, I like the retro aspect. I knew it wasn't going to be this forever. There was enough information in the advertisements, in the in how it was being promoted through like the various talk shows, and think that it wasn't going to stay like that. So, like, I was able to manage my expectations and go, okay, let's see how it's going to go. And I let it play out. A lot of times people are like, oh, it's something I don't understand and I'm freaking out about it. It's like, let it wash over you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But like the 50s, okay, so like for me, I'm a big sitcom guy. I love like my sitcoms and different eras. I'd say the 50s is my least favorite era. Like although this show gave me a more of an appreciation for that era of like television and how they used to do it more as a play. Like I was learning that in like the making of content that we were also watching today. Like, oh, they did all that with like a studio audience, and they did it all with takes, like as like a stage show
sequence. Yeah.
I was like, that's impressive because
Yes.
by the 80s they weren't doing that really,
No.
right?
No.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. I think that was kind of cool, and I liked seeing that. I liked the set design. Going back and watching this again, watching this beginning, knowing, not being so worried about why is Vision alive again, because that was all I could think about for most of this show. It's like I saw Thanos rip that stone out of his head. You know, he was dead on the ground. Captain America was like, Bucky, where'd you go? All that, you know, and and then him being back here without an explanation was like killing me a little bit. I was like, why? Where is he? Is he even really? Is he just like an illusion? But as we're going through these episodes, where he's giving us glimpses of like, what's going on, Wanda? And I don't think this is right. And sometimes she'll reset it. We don't always know it's her. There's a great amount of mystery about what's going on, especially for the first 3 episodes. Who is pulling the strings? Who's responsible for what? Who might be the villain?
I think we did get a nugget that it was her resetting it when the B guy came in, and she just said no, and it rewound.
Yes.
So you got a little bit of a nugget that she is controlling something to do with this.
Well, the first glimpse we get is in this first episode where, Mr. Hart come and his wife come over for dinner. That's the boss at this company that Vision works at in this weird TV universe. It's called Computational Operations, where we make reports that go on horizontal things and whatever. And we also have Deborah Jo Rupp from that 70s show sitcom.
Yeah, Kitty.
Kitty. She's a great in this show. Great in this first episode. Yeah. Great part of this universe, and we see that. But once Mr. Hart is really pressing, like, "Hey, where are you guys from? What's your story? Tell us your story." It's a simple question. Then he starts to choke on the chicken bone, and you don't know why. But I kind of look at now watching the second one. I'm like, "Oh, she made him choke on the chicken bone, or whatever it was, or like." And then it's after a couple of seconds, she goes, "Vision, help him," and he pulls it out, and he's like, "Okay, I guess I'm gonna go."
But
off.
you also get that little bit of a what the fuck, like what's going on, because you see it in Deborah Jo Rupp's performance when she is looking directly at Wanda and saying stop it and pleading with her to stop it. That was exquisite.
Yeah, watching it back again, you go, "Oh." But I didn't see it the first time.
You don't see it when you then know and go back and watch that scene. It's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yes.
And I only rewatched the first 4 episodes, so I'm sort of because they were the furthest removed from my memory, and I needed to kind of go back and kind of remember what I was feeling. But yeah, like that was a really amazing scene.
Yes.
That episode, like the rewatch of that episode, is so much more satisfying than the first time, I think, for me, because I think knowing the answer makes me be able to watch it differently.
Yeah, you see things differently.
Yeah. And at the end, we never truly got a wedding with Wanda and Vision in like we know that but this happens at the end of the first episode where they kind of say I do, and I guess August 23rd is their new anniversary, right? This is their day, August 23rd, 2023. But yeah, because we saw in I guess Infinity War that they were hidden out in Scotland, right? And they were kind of living there. But she says that in the flashbacks later, she says they were already married when he died, because she's next to kin, right?
Probably common law, I guess, at that point. But then it's like it becomes a big issue, because is he technically just like equipment? Is he an actual being that has rights?
Do we have to go to Measure of a Man and Jean-Luc Picard here?
Yes, we do.
You're gonna turn the Vision off?
They just play that episode of Next Gen and they go, "Oh well, obviously we shouldn't do that." But yeah, like, well, that comes into play here, like how she can't reclaim his body after he dies, and that becomes an issue here. But yeah, but that was just a nice moment. Okay, they got the wedding rings, and then they're a thing throughout the rest of it. And then in episode 2, which is called "Don't Touch That Dial," they go into the 1960s, and I like this, like the kind of subtle transition, right? in each episode, where it starts off in that early 60s kind of era, and kind of like almost like a Munsters or even
it was very Bewitched. Very
Bewitched.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did the monochrome bother anybody, or are you guys okay with the black and white?
No, I was fine with it. It fit the era
I'm
they were
totally fine
doing.
with it.
Well, I was ready for it to be over by the end of the second episode, and that's when it ends. I'm just gonna say that. I'm not as big of a fan of the monochrome. It hurts my eyes. But the second episode is all about Vision wanting to do a magic show, right?
Yes.
In the town square.
That was so good.
Right.
You know what made me so happy about that episode is that's when I felt like finally the MCU has pulled out letting Paul Bettany be hilarious. The hilarious person that he is. Like, he does comedy so well and has had to play it so straight through, from Jarvis straight through Vision, that you finally get the comedian that he is. Like, the first thing I ever saw him in was a comedy. So it was weird for me watching him, listening to his voice in the early Iron Man movies and seeing him as Vision. And I'm like, he's so funny. Let him be funny. So I loved that scene where he's doing that because he's
all drunk. He's got, when his works are all gummed up.
Yeah, he's all gummed up.
Yeah. And before I forget, like, we're also getting like these series of commercials that are coming up, right? Throughout
I loved the commercials. I love
commercials and the theme songs. Every episode had like a new theme song that was specific to the era. Every episode had its own production. You're like, what? How? Like, I guess you're Marvel and you have all the money and you can do whatever you want, and good on you. I'm impressed.
They spent extra on all of that stuff.
It paid off. It made this show shines. Like, it sparkles. Yes. It's so good. We also I don't want to miss mentioning, we also get the introduction of Agnes, or we'll come to know she is Agatha Harkness in reality, but she gets introduced in episode 1 as well as the nosy neighbor, who we don't really know what she's about or if she's what her role in this is, as played by Catherine Hahn. Catherine Hahn. Amazing. She's amazing in this show.
I didn't even know that she was, because I even like avoided looking at the cast that was in the show. I knew very little of the cast that was in the show. I knew Deborah Jo Rupp was in it. I didn't know she was going to be in it. I love her. I'm literally repping a Parks and Rec t-shirt right now because she plays an amazing character in like maybe a dozen episodes in that is awesome. One of my favorite characters. I love the Bad Moms movies, and she's a main character in that. But her in this, like, just chef's kiss. Like, she was the greatest casting of this show.
Greatest new character, like that like came in for this show. I think that Elizabeth Olsen goes toe to toe with her throughout the entire show.
Oh, the both of them killed it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right, and this whole cast is amazing, but I think that maybe those two at the very top of it.
Yes,
I will agree that everyone plays their pretty well. There's only one issue I have in terms of the casting. I just feel like it's a little bit on the nose, but that's fine. Catherine Hahn is amazing. She was great in this is her second comic book movie that she's done. She was Dr. Octopus in Into the Spider-Verse.
Right, the voice of the female Dr. Octopus, like who was like the daughter of Dr. Octopus in that, right, or something?
No, I think she was just Dr. Octopus.
Oh, she was just in that universe. That
universe. And she was coming off amazing show. I think it was on HBO called Mrs. Fletcher, which was I feel like a lot of people should go back and look at the great work that she did in that one. So it was great to see her continue on, in this show. I really hope that she is recognized for her performance in this come next contract time, because she deserves headlining work, because she is a headlining caliber actress.
Absolutely.
Not comedian, actress in general. She is fantastic.
Yeah. I got all the kudos for Catherine Hahn, who I wasn't really familiar with. I've seen her in things, I think, but I wasn't necessarily expecting her to be the bad guy. Although as we were watching the week to week, Ashley, there was a lot of it like, no, Agnes is this character that's going to be. It was her all along. Hence the theme song that we get. It was Agatha all along that we get like the 5th episode or whatever. Everyone saw it coming. There's kind of that misdirect in that one episode where we're not sure. We think she's just another victim of the hex, but she's not. But great, amazing work. And she keeps slipping in and out. And even on the rewatch, watching these first 4 episodes, I'm like, oh, there she is. But you can't quite tell the first time. It's so well done. Everyone in this show, from production value to music to directing to writing to everything they thought about, is as good as it can get. Like it's the top of their game. We also get to meet a couple other characters in episode 2, including Senior Scratchy the rabbit, which is Catherine Hahn's Agnes's pet rabbit. She also makes many references to Ralph, her husband Ralph.
Yeah.
Yes, who I guess is Evan Peters' character, Ralph Boner.
Yes.
Right, but we'll come back to him when we get to that episode. But yes, Ralph.
Not really her husband. Not really, though.
Not really, no. There was also Dottie, who we meet in the 2nd episode. Dottie seems like quite of a malevolent character, like maybe a villain character. Turns out to be not that important of a character, just another victim in the hex, right?
Yeah.
She was just playing a role.
She was just playing a role, but she's kind of like she's very distracting in that 2nd episode because she's such a presence, which I think is maybe at the point.
That's just Emma Caulfield being awesome. So,
right,
it's hard to tone down the awesomeness sometimes.
Yeah.
And there was that whole the meeting where she's like, it was like the ladies' meeting or whatever, and she's like, for the children. They're like, for the children. For the
children you never see.
Yeah, very little there because they were and what was the story there that they were not necessarily players in the hex, that they were mostly asleep for these.
They were stuck in their rooms. But you hear all about the children, and they're doing this for the elementary school, but the only children you see in the entire thing are the twins that come later.
Right. And a little bit during the Halloween sequences, too.
Yes, Halloween, yes, because obviously they have to be out for there has to be kids out for Halloween.
Yeah. And also was kind of mentioned, like, it was questioned, so obviously to keep, appearances.
Right. And we get that whole sequence in like with the magic show, as we said, where Vision is doing real things, but they're going, whoa. But in this TV universe, they're trying to like keep their secret identities or their powers a secret. So she's kind of covering up for his what he's doing, to make it look fake with her real magic. It's quite clever in the whole thing. It's a lot of fun.
So did you all catch the what later becomes a callback in like the final episode? So whenever Vision does a magic trick, the thing that he exclaims is flourish. So when Agent Chow gets out of the handcuffs, he goes, and flourish.
Yeah, and flourish.
Right? Because he's watching the show. He's such a fan of the show that he would emulate that when he does like the magic.
Right. Yeah, I know. I wasn't. Yeah, I gotta look at that a little bit more closely. But by the end of that, they've come home, and then they have this moment where she realizes she's pregnant, and this is the beginning of the babies coming along at the end of the 2nd episode. It's moving along, this story.
Oh yeah, she goes from not pregnant to 4 months pregnant immediately.
Very immediately. And then this beekeeper shows up. A beekeeper in the sewer. And we go, what the hell? What's this about? Right? And she just goes, no. And then it all resets. And instead of them going out to deal with the beekeeper, which we later learn as a sword operative, but
even prior to that, before they went outside, Vision was already questioning the reality. And it led to like, what's that? And they went outside. So when they reversed time, they went and kind of skipped him questioning. And they were able to just bypass that conversation altogether.
Right. Yeah. She kept. There was a couple times where she like. There was earlier in that episode with Dottie, like where it was the FBI guy,
Agent
Agent
Jimmy
Wu.
Cho. Agent Wu. Why do I
Wu.
keep on calling him Cho?
Yeah, Agent Wu. Yeah, Agent Wu was like, "What's going on? Who's doing this to you, Wanda? Who's doing this?" But we won't see his face till the episode 4. Yeah, so there's a couple times there where we're like, okay, things keep resetting. Who's doing it? Is Wanda doing it? She seems to be kind of doing it, but is she conscious of it? And there's a lot of mystery, but there's also the spectacle, and we get like this shot of color on the reset, and this is where I'm happy because now it's in color. Hence we
your eyes anymore,
and we move right into episode 3, and it goes now in color or color if you're going by the Canadian spelling. And this okay, but I gotta say something, and they said something in the making of that I agree with, that the 50s and the 60s did feel like more grounded in their sitcom styles, and the 70s, I think the 70s, which is this third episode, is the worst era of sitcoms. Just for everything. Like, I'm glad I wasn't alive in this decade, I think.
Yeah, I just
you wouldn't
think
have liked watching.
In general, I think the 70s sitcoms weren't as good as the 60s or the 80s.
Yeah, like it's kind of like, okay, because this episode is like a homage to like Partridge Family. Brady Bunch, others, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, but
a little bit of like, I don't want to say On the Family, because you have like the black thing that just kind of saunters in, like, hey, what's going on? Like,
I mean, Geraldine.
Yeah, Geraldine plays that kind of character. She's like George Jefferson, like coming in Archie Bunker.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of just like kind of slips into like the family unit and then disappears.
Right.
It just seemed very awkward.
Yeah, I was picking up on that.
Come
in. I was like, "What? Do you know her?" And I was like, "But yeah, but it was the same thing with Agnes too." In that way, but
Agnes is the neighbor at the very least. Like, we don't even know where Geraldine lives, and she's like, "Yeah, just come in." Like, just walks in.
Yeah, by the end of the episode,
Agnes, at least in the first couple of episodes, you're kind of like, okay, well, she's the Ethel to Wanda's Lucy.
Right. Yeah. I get, and you're like, I guess there would be another character, and because she keeps functioning as like this help to Wanda.
Yeah, there always used to be the neighbor that would come and help save the day or whatever in the early 50s and 60s.
Yeah, right. The Kimmy Gibbler.
Yeah. Well, that's later. That's a little bit. That's
the Gibbler. But like just like the hair and like just the style and everything else, like. I know they had to do it, but it was kind of like I was like, because I wanted to get to the stuff I knew, which was the 80s. So I was getting a little impatient by this point too. Jaemeel, what now in color? This whole episode with the birth of the kids, Geraldine. How were you on this one?
I like this episode. Like, once again, even though you don't particularly like this era of television, it was still interesting. Like the theme song.
Oh yeah,
was
so good.
It is my third favorite theme song, and it being still the third, it's still really good.
I think the 70s one is my favorite theme song of all.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh no. Really, favorite?
It's up there. It's up there. Even though it's not my favorite episode or sort of style for show or fashion or most of the aesthetics of it.
Number one is episode 7, and then number 2 is the next episode, which is the 80s episode.
80s. I loved the 80s theme.
The 80s was like, it was so much like the Family Ties theme, though.
Family Ties. It has a little bit of Full House in that one as well.
It's very.
I think it was fantastic.
Yeah,
it was.
It had a little bit of Who's the Boss was thrown in there, just a little bit, like
a little bit.
Growing Pains.
Yes, loved it.
Going through the different eras.
It was good. They were all good. I didn't have any I disliked. The one I liked the least is probably like the Malcolm in the Middle.
Yeah, 2001. I wasn't a fan of.
Yeah, that was because I was not a Malcolm in the Middle person.
That's why the theme song that I care about in that episode happens at the end.
Right. The Agatha all along.
Agatha all along. It's like
yeah.
on my playlist all the time. I was eagerly awaiting for it to show up on Spotify. It like became #1 worldwide on Spotify.
It is catchy.
That's incredible. Yeah, it's great. I've been singing it
Like
in my
I wouldn't be
head
surprised.
all day.
Grammy time. Wouldn't be surprised if it wins a Grammy.
Yeah, good.
EGOT for Catherine Hahn.
I also want to talk. So when the baby's coming, there's also this debate, Ashley, about what they're going to name the baby because they don't know it's twins yet. And Vision wants Billy, and Wanda wants Tommy. I don't know why, but they keep going back and forth. And ultimately, when they think it's only one baby, Vision gives in and says, "You can have your win. You can have Tommy." What'd you make of that? But then Billy came second. Billy was the second.
Yeah, it was fine. It's not something I put that much. Like I didn't really care what they named to the kids, or.
Well, I thought it was very interesting.
Billy and Tommy? Wasn't Billy the 5th Ranger and Tommy was the 6th Ranger?
Well, Tommy was the Green Ranger and Billy was the Blue Ranger.
I'm sorry. That's what I immediately thought. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah, I don't know. It was just because I didn't pick up the first time I watched the episode. They were debating on this name, Billy or Tommy. I was like, I don't know. Like, and then it ends up being both. And then I was just like, well, why would Vision want to name why does he like the name Billy? What's his connection to the name Billy? What's
William Shakespeare?
Or William Shakespeare. Yeah, he chose it because of William Shakespeare.
Does he say that in the episode? Sorry, I missed
that.
Yes.
Okay. He does. Yeah.
Okay, and Wanda with Tommy, what is there something that she has a? I can't think of what that would be.
Probably like based off of a sitcom character.
Maybe, probably.
It would make more sense.
You think
I'm
she
trying to
would
think
have
of which one though.
Like Pietro, but Tommy, I guess.
Right. the commercial in this one I was really confused by too. This had the Hydra soak for the goddess.
I know this one. This one.
What? Explain this one to me. What was this mean?
The Hydra soap is a reference to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And the episode where I'm not going to spoil the season because you should watch. Hydra has basically taken over the world and rewritten history. And the hero Quake, Daisy Johnson, has found Agent Coulson in this reality as a paranoid school teacher, is trying to get him on her side to, fix reality. And he is this paranoid dude saying, you realize Hydra is not what they say they are. I would have, I had a lot of issues coming to grips with that. Thankfully, I was able to get the thing out of my bloodstream. And they're like, what thing? It's like, oh yeah, they use soap to control people's minds. That's why I make my own soap. So like the blue soap was the Hydra soap that he was referring to. So seeing it come up in this is a very funny callback, and also talks about how Hydra was like kind of controlled people to do their bidding throughout history. So it was like the different eras of Wanda that she was dealing with, and this one was talking about the Hydra influence over her life.
Because we start with the Stark thing. It's the Stark toaster.
Yep.
And then the second one is the Strucker watches, which is like this Hydra Swiss watch. Strucker was the guy from. He was one of he was the guy in Age of Ultron.
He was the lead Hydra person at that time, which Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. revealed the location. That's why the Avengers was able to find his compound. That was revealed in the episode,
right? Because when we enter Age of Ultron, the Avengers are already assembled, and they're going after Hydra, and there's no real setup for any of that. But it would have been in
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.,
which I wasn't watching and still haven't.
Yeah, I think I was still watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at that point. Right. Or I had watched up to that point, or I think I got to somewhere around middle or end-ish of 3rd season. I haven't watched since, like past that.
Mhm.
And also, last tidbit of Agents of Shield, I'll stop, is the helicarrier in the end. How they have that? It was retrofitted by the crew of Agents of Shield. You're welcome, Sokovia.
There you go. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. saving the day, and we don't even know it. Or I don't know it. The only other thing about this third episode I want to get into is that stork. What was going on with that stork?
I think that was just...
It was something that she couldn't control.
It was one of her magics?
Yeah, being pregnant was making her magic be fritzy. Like, she was having issues with her magic all the way through the pregnancy and when she was in labor, like when her water broke and it was just water, the houses were just filled with water, and like it was just fritzy through the whole thing. And then she gave birth and got control of her magic back.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you for explaining this to me because I was losing that part of it. And then with Geraldine, after the birth and everything else, and we see like, again, we don't know who's bad, we don't know who's good, which I really liked this part of the mystery where we saw that Agnes was sewing down with Vision. She took over the neighbor outside, and they're like, Geraldine's like bad, right? Like she's not in there with the babies, right? So there's a number of these misdirects where we don't know who we should be sort of like thinking is the malevolent force here. We're not quite sure. We can see that it could be a number of people. I just think it becomes more clear it's going to be Agnes, as more episodes go on, or Agatha, as she's known. But it's actually Wanda who says, I'm a twin too. I have a brother Pietro. And then she goes, oh yeah, your brother died from Ultron. And that's when
she's Wanda's like, what did you say?
What did you say? I think you should leave. And she's like, oh, don't be like that. Don't be like that, Wanda.
And then sees the sword necklace.
Sees the sword necklace. Yeah. Just like the beekeeper, which I didn't realize the first time I saw the beekeeper. And so you're okay, the sword is something. And then she gets thrown out, and that ends the third episode. We see her land there and all the government agents show up, and we see that there's all this government agents on the outside of this world. And then we go into the fourth episode, which is We Interrupt This Program. And that's introducing us to who Geraldine really is, which is actually Monica Rambeau, who we met in Captain Marvel as a child. She was the daughter of the other Rambeau, Maria Rambeau, who was a fighter pilot with Captain Marvel herself. And I really liked this. I really like this fourth episode. I love how it starts with her coming back from the snap or the blip or whatever they call. I was just like, this is good. Like okay. And so her mother didn't get snapped, but she later died somewhere in those 5 years from cancer, and we see all that chaos. I do want to see more scenes like this in the different Marvel projects. I'm assuming that like the Falcon and the Winter Soldier will have maybe other scene, or at least a scene maybe like this, where we're seeing sort of the aftermath of the snap, or the blip and all that. And she kind of, we see after that kind of settles down, she comes back in. She's working with this. We meet Director Hayward, who's he's the other maybe bad of this show. But we don't really know whether to trust him at first, because he's also
never trusted him.
You
the
never
preacher father from Seventh Heaven obviously had to be a bad dude. I felt this was way on the nose of him being like someone we should not trust, right? At all. It was to me, it was pretty evident. Like, the dude was slimy.
What were your first impressions of Hayward, Ashley?
Yeah, I didn't like him.
You thought
I
he was going to be bad?
didn't trust him right off the bat.
Okay. I wasn't sure about Hayward right away. I was like, maybe he's okay, but it turns out these people are usually bad when they're introduced in this sense. We also get to see Jimmy Woo come in here, as well as Darcy. So we get Jimmy Woo, who's from Ant-Man and the Wasp, and then we get Darcy, who's from Thor 1 and 2. She had not been there forever. Darcy is played by who plays
Kat Dennings.
Kat
Dennings.
Thank you. And seeing like this all these crossovers from all these other movies makes me so happy. This is this type of stuff I live for. I love shared cinematic universe. I love when the characters cross over from the different properties, because it rewards the fans for paying attention and for being familiar with what these things are. And that's the whole point. They all live in the same universe together, so they're going to run into each other in certain times. Was everyone else? Did you guys like this team that we'll come to know of Monica, Jimmy, and Darcy?
I love Darcy, so I was very excited to see Darcy back. I don't even know that it's necessarily that I love Darcy. I love Kat Dennings, so I was excited to see Darcy back. I still have not watched Ant-Man and the Wasp, so I know I just haven't sat down and watched it yet. So I didn't actually know Agent Woo from that, but I love Fresh Off the Boat, so I was very excited to see. I can't remember the actor's name.
Randall Park. Yeah.
Randall Park.
Yeah.
Love him. So I was excited to see him in there.
You're gonna watch Ant-Man and the Wasps and rewatch him meeting Monica and appreciate that scene so much more.
Okay. Yeah, I just haven't.
I'm not even gonna spoil it for you. I'm just like I their introduction is just such. This when you're talking about having a shared universe, this is the type of elements, because it's like, I think people were amazed at, like, this is such like a proper example of doing connectivity where it shows character growth, and they were able to show character growth immediately in the first scene that you see the character. It's amazing in WandaVision, when we see Jimmy Woo. So yeah, I was on board. I was like, I was literally, like, I think, like, at that time 4:30 in the morning, and I was like, yes, Jimmy Woo, like, excited. Not wanting to wake up anyone.
No, I was when he does the card flip, because that's a thing. But yeah, it doesn't matter.
Fine. I'm not, like, I've had 3 years to watch this movie. It's fine.
I know.
It's literally the only MCU thing I haven't watched. I just haven't. It's on something streaming, but
look what happened. You didn't watch something, and now we have a moment where you don't know what's going on.
I like Ant-Man in the like Avengers and in Civil War or whatever. The first one, it was fine, but it's just not one of those things that I've been like, I really have to watch Ant-Man.
The movie isn't that important. It isn't super important. It kind of reveals stuff about Endgame. It kind of, like, makes some of the science of Endgame make sense. It's just a fun movie. It's not really tied to anything else besides that. So you can watch it, like, no shame.
I'll watch it. I'll watch it eventually. It's just been one of those things that I flipped past and been like, I should watch this, and just haven't.
Right. Yeah, this fourth episode is literally called "We Interrupt This Program." This is where we're just everything's getting caught up to us, like what was going on in these first 3 episodes, what was going on the outside. We get a lot of those points filled in, and there's no, like, next era, because that will come in the next episode. We don't go to the 80s right away, so there's kind of this intermission period, it feels like, between the 70s and the 80s episode, that we'll get. This is where I was like, I felt a breath of fresh air at this episode when I was watching it at the time. No,
I was like, I could get more of what's happening inside or outside. Like, everything, I was kind of rolling with everything. There was not disappointment coming through my way from what they were giving me, until later on in the season, and even that was very minor. So, to me, it was a different experience.
This felt like a sort of like a bridge episode. It was needed so that we got an idea of what was going on.
We got a question here. Who wants to know about these kids that they have from someone named Jane Mater? What is Jane? I was trying to see. Like, somebody's jumped in to say, what are Wanda's kids made of? Are they real or magic? Billy and Tommy. Does anyone want to go first? Does anyone? I kind of have an answer myself. Ashley, what's your opinion?
Well, I think magic.
Well, are they? So they're not. Are they the offspring of Vision and Wanda?
They couldn't be, because Vision is not Vision.
Right.
My answer?
Yes, Jaemeel?
Yes.
Yes, what?
Yes, they are the offspring of Wanda and the memory of Vision.
If
Made flesh.
Okay, and I think that so there because in the comic books, I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but Tommy and Billy are somehow related to Mephisto, who is like from this demon dimension, right?
Okay. Okay. Um so okay, let's TLDR this whole thing. Uh Agatha was using the kids as pieces of Mephisto's soul, um, which Mephisto was trying to use to become corporeal in our dimension. Um, so yeah, that's how they were created. They were created as pieces of Mephisto's soul.
Okay, but we haven't even met Mephisto yet.
Um, I'm just telling you what the comic books. I'm not necessarily saying this is what
Who is
happening.
Can you tell us who Mephisto is?
Mephisto is basically the Marvel Universe version of the devil, a very devilish demon, a demon that is in a dark dimension.
Okay, and I believe he was featured in one of the Ghost Rider movies with Nicolas Cage.
Yes,
those were good movies.
Okay. I was like, I think he has been in a movie, but it wasn't a good one.
Those don't count. Those.
I enjoyed it.
If Agents of Shield doesn't count,
But
that
he's kind,
certainly doesn't.
yeah, Mephisto. He's not. He's kind of a Ghost Rider character, more right? Or
No, he's literally the devil of the Marvel universe. His reach is like Daredevil, Doctor Strange. A lot recently for Spider. I guess like Spider-Man has a major part of his current universe life based upon interaction with Mephisto.
Well, I think it's also worth mentioning that like this WandaVision, and I guess it was already started with Doctor Strange, but like really leaning into magic, right? And the supernatural more so than they did earlier in the MCU, where like Thor's not presented as a god; he's like an alien, and magic and science are kind of the same thing. It's just how you present it. And
Yeah, it's how people have always viewed advanced technology. If the technology is so advanced, it's akin to magic to normal folks. So that's basically how they presented Thor's abilities and Asgardian, technology is magic. But the
even
same
Doctor
thing when
Strange a
Doctor
little bit.
Strange, it's even presented as like a science as well, right? But a
Mhm.
more of a metaphysical one that tapping into different dimensional energies, right?
Mhm.
So like there's still like it's still grounded. It isn't just like, because of magic, end of subject,
End of
right?
subject. Magic that just exists, and I
But
prefer that version.
but they're getting into more of that, into the magic
But I
stuff.
don't know if I want them to.
But I don't know how we could say that these kids are real if the vision that we're seeing so far in here is just a memory that she's created. Also,
It's
even
he
if we
is
were
built
going
from a
with
memory.
he's built from a memory, but how would we say that even Vision is not, she's human. Vision is not. There's no way these kids could be real. Vision doesn't have semen.
We don't know. He could have like
How?
some.
He's not a human being.
He's
He's
he's.
old.
I don't know. He walks around. He has blinking
But
eyes. He can.
he's not even that Vision. He's a memory Vision. And then we find out later on when we get to the later episodes, when she collapses the hex, they disappear. They're not real. If they were real,
But who was crying out in that post-credit sequence?
well, we'll find out in multiverse, won't we?
And she said,
So
"Thank you for choosing to be my children,
so
for
okay,
choosing me to be your mom."
let's kind of my understanding is just because Wanda is controlling an area, right? She's affecting the reality, right? So in that reality, they are real, right? Vision is
Yeah,
real, or that
within
version of Vision, right?
yeah.
So are the kids, right? They can touch,
Okay.
they feel, they think, right? So yes, they aren't um,
They're
real
real
in the
in
outside
that
world.
bubble. Yeah, they're real in that
They,
bubble. Okay.
they
Yes,
might be from like another
Okay.
dimension, like a Doctor Strange-esque
No, I
dimension.
don't even think those
but I
kids are real from another dimension. I think those kids exist maybe in another dimension, but I don't think though like I think a version of those kids exist in another dimension. Those
yeah,
kids, I will say yes to Jaemeel. They were real within that bubble of her reality because I mean, she's a Scarlet Witch and can just create things from nothing.
yes.
Yeah,
So that's I'm not saying that um, are they not real outside of the reality that she concocted? No, right? They can be real in other places. They can be real in other dimensions or other timelines. Um, all that matters and all that we know is what happened right now. Like there's infinite possibilities.
Yeah.
If the
here's
story
my theory.
unfolds that they detail that, then we'll see. But as of right now, are they real? Yes, in that reality.
Here's my theory. I think that within that reality, yes, they were the offspring of Vision and Wanda within this reality. I think that their powers within that were sort of representative of being the offspring in this reality of these two super people, even though
Mhm.
you're right, there's no biological way like you could think of like someone like Vision having kids with Wanda, but maybe she can make reality whatever she wants too. She can give him Vision
They use
semen.
sitcom magic to get her pregnant, which is, Lucille Ball and Ricky didn't have sex, right? And they didn't announce that she was pregnant. They sang "Rockabye Baby," and that was to indicate
No,
to
no, but
the
they had the
audience.
two beds that were apart, and then the beds had to go together because they
Yeah,
were scared. The second episode, that's where I think that's where the conception happened.
it's sitcom magic.
When she joined the bed and gave them a queen size bed instead of two singles.
Yeah, that was it. That was he, and then
Yeah,
That
he
was
when
goes,
their
he did
joining.
say
Yes.
when the doctor said you're 4 months along, and he's like, it's been 12 hours.
yeah, that was it. Exactly. That was that. So they were conceived in the 60s. But here's my theory. I think that Billy and Tommy are actually two different they're entities. There's some kind of they're probably from the Doctor Strange astral planes or something, like something out there, and they somehow were brought into our universe through this WandaVision hex, and they're so the souls of these kids are these beings from somewhere else.
Did they
uh,
come in, or when she collapsed the hex, did she send them somewhere else?
I think that they went back to where they were from. Went or they were sent somewhere else, or maybe there's
Like
it
she
depends whose
created
theory you
them,
want to go with
she
it.
created them in her reality, but when she had to collapse everything, did she just send them somewhere else? And this
Right.
is something that
Maybe
we'll find out
maybe
in multiverse.
I think we're gonna find out in the next Doctor Strange movie
I think so.
is probably where we're gonna get that answer. As for Vision and whether who would how because we find out that he's the memory of the Vision, but again, I think all the Infinity Stones are sort of linked, right? And one of the Infinity Stones is the Soul Stone. And I feel like this was the soul of the Vision. Like he had no memories of Vision, but he was everything about him
Well,
was Vision.
I think what's going to
So,
end up happening is because her powers were created from the Mind Stone, which is why they had the connection.
Mhm.
I think that's going to
go ahead.
it does that not true? Was her powers is that not what happened
That
in
is true.
Ultron? The Mind Stone.
What they said, what they said in the show was her powers were amplified by the Mind Stone.
Okay, yeah.
She
That's yes, so that's what they said in the show, but in the in before the show, she was created from the Mind Stone.
Yes.
Right.
The
And
show
we
kind of
can't we
retconned
don't
that a little
necessarily
bit.
know if she is a
Yes.
trustworthy narrator.
Has she has bits of the Mind Stone in her from the amplified, created, whatever they want to go with now, so that's where he came from. Like, and you see that when it's coming out of her and creating him. So I think he had part of, like, he was a physical representation of the Mind Stone that is now destroyed, but because she still has part of it in her, and I think we're going to end up finding this with Captain Marvel as well, who got her powers from an Infinity Stone.
Space Stone, yeah.
That there is still bits of the stones around because of these people that were imbued with their
powers or
power.
energies.
I absolutely agree with Ashley.
I think that's how they're going to. This is what's going to happen with. We haven't gotten there yet, but White Vision, because like this Vision passed on some stuff to White Vision in that, like, he touched him and then he glowed up yellow a little bit. Like, I think this is going to create an interesting dynamic in the next movies.
Yes, I think ultimately we'll ultimately see this Vision that we had in this show and in this hex rejoined with his body.
Yes.
The White Vision, who's it's kind of like Search for Spock, right? It's kind of like Star Trek 3, where the Katra was in McCoy's head, but so in this case in Wanda's head, I guess, right?
Yeah, there was the body, and then there was the Katra, and they have to combine.
You have to combine with the mind melt, Jaemeel.
Yeah.
Are you buying what we're selling?
No. I'm not. I think that Wanda and Vision's story currently is on hold until further down the line, and as of right now, I think they might be going in two different paths until they reconnect.
Oh,
right.
I believe that entirely. Yes.
So I mean that Multiverse of Madness is not going to be their reconnection. I think that White Vision is going to be doing something totally different. I absolutely agree in terms of like Wanda being like a representative or like the last remaining host of the Infinity Stone for the Mind Stone, just like how Captain Marvel is for the Tesseract, which is the Space Stone. And
who is it for the Power Stone? Did anyone have powers from the power? Like, well,
Power
kind of.
Stone would be like, so I have a theory that somewhere down the line, not now, but somewhere down the line, they're gonna do a story where it's gonna be like the Infinity Stones are drawn to each other to reform, and the people who are like the last representatives of them. So Mind Stone is Wanda. The
Space Stone
is Captain Marvel. The
Guardians of the Galaxy could be the Power Stone.
Anyone from the Guardians of the Galaxy with a Power Stone. The Ether would be Jane Foster. Red Skull would be the Soul Stone because he is tied up with that. So you have the 5 different representatives, and they're all drawn together.
You're missing a stone. You're missing the right.
The power, space, time stone would be Doctor Strange.
Time stone. Well, yeah, and Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yes, you are right. And you have all these individuals who are directly linked to it, and it's already been established multiple times that these stones have a mind of their own and a will of their own. That's why when Red Skull had a Tesseract, right, he was more or less punished and put on the Soul Planet. I'm sorry, I can't think of the name. Right, he wasn't able to use
Boromir. Is that what it was called, or something like that?
Possibly, yes. Right, so it is a little bit of it. Also chooses its welders as well.
Right. I also think the Soul Stone could be tied. If it's not tied up with like Red Skull, it could be tied in with like either Black Widow or also with Gamora. Like Gamora is like this other one who died from the sacrifice.
She technically never interacted with the Soul Stone.
No,
yeah, not the one we have now.
Only technically, I guess Thanos and Hawkeye did, right? They were the only two that had
Thanos, Hawkeye, and Red Skull.
So any of those, but Thanos is out of the picture, and Red Skull maybe Like it'd be if they brought him back, it'd be great. But I like that theory, Jaemeel. I think that down the road, like the Infinity People or something, or like the sort of the Infinity Survivors or something like that, who have these energies because the stones are gone, but they're sort of their after their math. I'm conscious that we're at an hour and what are we at 20 now? So I want to make sure we keep moving along to the 5th episode, which is called On a Very Special Episode. So this is the 80s / early 90s setting. So we're all born within 2 or 3 years of each other. So this is all of our childhoods. This was Family Ties. This was Full House. This was Who's the Boss. This was
Family Matters as well with the suspenders.
Growing Pains. A lot of those shows. This felt very, very familiar to me in all kinds of ways. Even though I watched like reruns of the 50s, 60s, and 70s shows, this was definitely like TGIF was a big thing when I was a kid, and I was a big fan of all that. And this is kind of like now we have the kids, we have the twins now. We see Billy and Tommy are age themselves up to 5 years old very quickly, and this is where we kind of start figuring out they are different. They can do things outside of what Wanda wants. We start getting other glimpses here of like there's a scene where Agnes kind of goes, "Hey, do you want me to like start over?" And Vision sees it, and there's kind of like he's starting to figure out more and more that this is weird as time goes on, more so than he did in the 50s and 60s, and in that time frame. And we see Agnes is spraying them with that stuff. Remember that in the
lavender spray?
The lavender spray.
Lavender,
that was so weird to me.
Okay.
I'm just trying to remember everything that happened in this 5th episode. Yeah.
So she's spraying the kids won't stop crying, and she's spraying them. Both parents are kind of like at their wits' end. You have Agatha show up. She starts saying that she's going to look after the kids. It seems like there's an awkwardness, and then Vision kind of questions reality when she kind of like
gear.
Right. She's in aerobic gear
while rocking the cribs.
And this was so weird because this was like once they got to early 90s and stuff, I was like, well, and Elizabeth Olsen's sisters are the Olsen twins, who were Mary Kay and Ashley Olsen, who played Michelle on Full House. So it's just so weird that like she's back in here with doing this one specifically, but or so meta. But this is where they keep like aging themselves up. They get the dog in this episode. They get Sparky, who we find, and I killed Sparky too. That was amazing. Like she's like, but we get these 2 time jumps. Like they go from babies to 5-year-olds, and then they go from 5-year-olds to 10-year-olds, and they're about to go even older after Sparky dies. But then Wanda says, "No, you have to face your pain and deal with your issues," which she's totally not doing. She's talking out of the side of her mouth. But just like this episode was just like, oh my god, the fashion. Oh, I remember that. I remember people who used to wear shirts like that or whatever. It's just
people who wear shirts like that,
right? We also get Vision. He's able to unmind control them, and he starts talking to people who are like, how can I get out of here? And she's controlling my mind. And he goes back, and there's this kind of like this whole confrontation at the end of this episode between Vision and Wanda in the living room in this 80s, 90s setting.
It's fantastic. The fact that they start the argument and she basically tries to cut him off by rolling the credits, and he's like, no, this argument is not over, and like they bypass the credits and they go into like a wide screen of like the living room. It like this is some powerful stuff in that latter part of the episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Bettany's performance is great when he says, "I'm scared," because he doesn't know what's going on.
I can't remember my life, and then we start because we can tell that this is Vision, because if he was just a manifestation of Wanda, he wouldn't ask these questions. He wouldn't be doing these things. I don't think there's some part of the real Vision in this person or connection to this manifestation, even though doesn't have the memories, or he's not the physical embodiment in any way. The ship of Perseus, as we'll come to know.
Theseus.
Theseus, I'm sorry, not Perseus.
Yes.
But
just before like I learned about that in detail like a couple months back. Like I always knew it, but like it came up in some kind of show, right? Or some kind of character study. And for it to come up, I was like, I immediately know what you're talking about. Oh my gosh, in detail. This is great.
yeah, well, because we've talked about it in Star Trek stuff, like when the Enterprise went from its
Yes,
original
we talked
version.
about Discovery.
Yeah, and Discovery too, right? But yeah, the Enterprise in Star Trek 1, the movie, it's like it's a brand new Enterprise. They're saying it's the same ship, but they've basically replaced everything in it. Is it still the same ship or not?
Yeah.
Yes and no. Right. But the ending of this episode is because we get this crazy confrontation, like the credits, like we mentioned, and then at the end, the doorbell rings, and she goes, "I'm not the one who did that." We find out it's Agatha all along, and it turns out to be Evan Peters, right?
Yes.
From the X-Men movies. He's the that what we were saying. He's that other version,
other Quicksilver.
the other Quicksilver, and we know that they own the rights to all of that. Fox movies and all that was bought by Disney, so now they can do whatever they want now with these characters. What this was huge for me when he showed up, and I go, oh, whatever. And Kat Dennings' character Darcy goes,
she recast Pietro.
She recast Pietro, like, yeah. I was like, what is going on? And the entire internet lost its mind. Jaemeel, was this reveal and then what came after like satisfying?
I do a good job of like leveling my expectations, so and appreciate moments. This moment meant a lot. I was excited. I was like stepping lighter, right? I was like, this is everything. And my conspiracy board to the side, I'm like, everything's connected. And what we later revealed, I had already kind of pulled back my expectations after that. So I didn't feel too bad at the end. I had other issues, but I didn't feel too bad.
There were so many theories, Ashley.
It just turns out that Marvel was trolling us all along.
Well, a lot of people were upset with how this went because when Evan Peters shows up in the end of this episode, and then he's hanging out with the kids, and everyone's going, well, I guess he crossed over here from the other universe, and this is how they're going to bring the X-Men in from that universe. And there was so many people and so much of fandom that was like excited for what this could mean. And then he turns out to be Ralph Boner, and he's really from nowhere, right? By the end of this story.
Is he?
But is he? Because he goes Boner, and he thinks it's funny, and then...
Because, I mean, there was the file on his table, which is how they found out he was Ralph Boner. And then we go back to Agent Wu talking about how he had someone in that little town that was like, is he just a nobody, or?
I don't... Like, okay, we don't get it.
Is he who Agent Wu was there because he had somebody there who was in witness protection?
No, I don't think so. I like.
So who is in witness?
You wouldn't have 8x10s if you were in witness protection.
Who's in witness protection? Who do we think is in witness?
We don't know.
Maybe Senior Scratchy,
Mailman.
Senior Scratchy has FBI witness protection.
Maybe. He's another character. We never figure out what.
I like the theory. I like the theory with the mailman.
The mailman.
I love the mailman.
Yeah, he was exhausted.
He's like everyone keeps on saying he's an informant. So he's like, "Don't shoot me. I'm just a messenger." Right? He's the informant that was in that witness protection.
Maybe
I just like that theory. I like
that. Okay. Yeah. Like it, but Evan Peters here. Okay. We find out he was being controlled for most of this by Agatha, right? He was just kind of Agatha's puppet for most of his run throughout the next couple of episodes. But why would he have Quicksilver powers if he's just some guy named Ralph Boner? But like, it doesn't, maybe it just, It just feels weird.
And he's always wearing the necklace too. If you go back, he's always wearing the necklace.
Yeah, that's how
Even in the
Agatha
picture, you can see it.
The necklace is the mind control. That's the spell,
Yes.
right?
Okay, you're assuming that it's just the mind control because you never see him speed after it's removed.
True, and so the
It's
spell
true.
could have also given the speed.
True. Yeah.
I guess, but but the audience knows he is Evan Peters. He's Quicksilver from the other movies. Like a lot of the audience knows this.
So okay, I do feel that if that Marvel trolling us was a little bit uncalled for, and I'll say for one reason: for us to assume that this is Evan Peters is just us like, hey, he played the same role in a different movie, right? We know for a fact that the J. Jonah Jameson in Spider-Man Far From Home is not the same Joe
It's not
Jonah
the same
Jameson
one,
from
yeah.
Spider-Man 1,
True.
Yeah.
right? He's just playing the same character. So it's us connecting the dots. But for this Quicksilver, in the audio description for it, for people who are deaf, right?
Mhm.
Sorry, for people who are blind, deaf, people who are blind, it says Pietro appears, Pietro from the X-Men movies, right? So in the official audio description for that episode, it's signaled out that he is the Pietro from the Fox X-Men movies. And I feel that was kind of uncalled for. If you didn't have that, then I would feel a lot better with this, right? As just like a little, oh, this is kind of tongue-in-cheek little
Arguably one,
thing.
because obviously they could be bringing over Deadpool from that Fox universe, right? In some way, and I think that Evan Peters Quicksilver is maybe the other most popular character that they would consider bringing over because he was pretty popular from those movies, right? Compared to the Aaron Taylor Johnson version, who got just bullets in him.
He barely got to do anything. I think that was unfair.
At this point, I think if they don't do anything with the character, then it was just them trolling us. If they do end up doing something with but they may end up doing something. Like there may be something.
I think this is Pietro from the X-Men universe.
Yeah.
And I think he was being controlled by Agatha.
Yeah.
But what this means, I don't, because I think that they're going to have their own X-Men in the MCU. I think they're going to do it their way. I think there's going to be a new Professor X, but you could see some actors reprise their roles because they did it with J. Jonah Jameson with J.K. Simmons, right? Because I think they realize like who else can play J. Jonah Jameson but J.K. Simmons.
No one. And anyone else would be a disappointment.
Yeah, I think it's a really uphill battle. Try to do that. I think that they go, if J.K. Simmons is available and he's not busy playing Commissioner Gordon, get him to do this.
Maybe they tried to get, I can't remember his name, Aaron something. Maybe
Aaron
they
Taylor
tried
Johnson?
to get him from Ultron and he was unavailable, so they were like, all right, let's just get the X-Men one.
No, he was available.
He was not in contact for this role.
Okay.
It was announced. He's like he couldn't get it. But yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is like couldn't get it, but we'll get the other dude.
We'll just use the other guy.
Well, I think the audience knows him more too, right? I think like there's 3 X-Men movies or 4 X-Men movies with Evan Peters, right?
Yes.
Maybe they just got the Evan Peters because they wanted the Darcy joke. We don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah.
But this was a lot of fun. I think that the fans, whether you want to consider this trolling or it's just setting up something else, we'll see. But I'm leaning towards that this is not a troll move, that this is going somewhere. I think especially with how much reaction and how much excitement there was, I think that we'll see even if Marvel reacts and pivots any of their plans. Be curious to find out.
Maybe it was a plant to see how the fans would react to bringing the X-Men into the MCU.
Perhaps. I think that like I'm curious. I think everyone's curious to see what they do with Fantastic Four, what they do with X-Men. Yeah. And there's a lot of fans out there who are just chomping at the bit. Like, just tell me. Like, so many people were disappointed with this WandaVision because they want John Krasinski from The Office and other things, like a Quiet Place, to
Correct.
be Mr. Fantastic. There's so much. There's this fandom that
Okay.
they want, and his wife Emily Blunt, they want her to be Mrs. Fantastic, right? The Invisible Girl.
Mrs. Fantastic,
Mrs.
the Invisible Woman.
Yes. Isn't she sometimes called Mrs. Fantastic?
No,
like
never.
Mrs. Fantastic.
Never.
Never.
Just me. Am I the only
It
one
was
who
called
calls her that?
Invisible Girl
I like
and
it.
Invisible Woman.
I think Mr. and Mrs. Fantastic. They are.
He could be Mr. Invisible, and she could be Mrs.
Yes. He's
Yeah,
Mr.
Miss.
Invisible now. That's
I-
right.
yeah.
That's what I'm going to start calling them. Yes, they are the Invisible Four. And with the next episode, we get a lot of this Evan Peters Pietro, whether who he is or whatever. Obviously having the super speed, and Tommy gets the super speed because he's inherited it from his mother, and I guess from his actual biological uncle, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. But this is the called the all new Halloween Spectacular. This is that Malcolm in the Middle episode or esque thing. Like Jane was watching it with me, and she's like, I don't understand this reference. Like, what's going on with this this is where I was not a Malcolm in the Middle fan, although I did love that Bret Hart was putting the sharpshooter on in the opening credits. And I will never forget that.
Such a specific
such a specific thing. But Bryan Cranston was on that show, which does that mean, and he was shown, right? They showed like Bryan Cranston like in a clip from Malcolm in the Middle that her and Vision were watching later on in a subsequent episode. And she was like, well, he's like, is he hurt? And she's like, no, it's not that kind of show. So that means Bryan Cranston can't be in the MCU now. He exists only he can only exist as Bryan Cranston now.
No, that's not true.
You can't bring him in to be unless you put a lot of
can.
makeup on him. No.
Come on.
No, he's Walter White. Like, they must have Breaking Bad in this universe too, right?
Does it? Maybe
we know they have
the
Star
MCU
Wars.
character.
We know that Spider-Man referenced Empire Strikes Back as a really old movie.
No,
and
they reference everything. Star Wars, Star Trek are all in the MCU.
right, but then Mace Windu is played by Samuel L. Jackson, who's also
They
Nick
just
Fury.
look similar. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
All right, this is very confusing. All right, but I think like from a cinematography point of view, like this 6th episode, the Halloween episode, was I think one of my favorites. I kind of showed this already, but we had like these Halloween costumes. I thought that Scarlet Witch, Wanda, looked amazing. These, even though they're just Halloween, they look really good.
Yeah.
Where is it? Do I have any ones with Visions? No, I don't. Sorry.
Vision's luchador outfit.
His luchador outfit is
Yes.
hilarious with the shorts and everything else he's got on, and
The
Getting
commercial
those pops.
the commercial in this episode with
it's
the
the
shark
claymation.
and but the music and the claymation, like, that brought me back to my childhood. Like,
The Yo
literally,
Magic.
that started, and I went, I have watched this commercial.
Oh yeah,
Like even that, like, I could sing that music in my head. Like, I was like, this is Saturday morning watching YTV. I have seen this commercial. It was exquisite. I loved it. Like, it brought me back to my childhood in the 90s.
yeah. And so I was kind of conflicted about this episode because I felt like this Malcolm in the Middle-esque thing is like, because like I said, we're like, Jameel's 82, I'm 83, you're 84, and so I'm like, okay, like these. I was kind of too old for Malcolm in the Middle when it was coming out, but this commercial, to your point, was our childhood. So they were kind of, so there was crossover here with like sort of the late 90s.
It was 90s, 2000.
The commercial felt early 90s, but the opening felt late 90s.
Yeah, the 90s kind
They
of
did it in the middle of the thing, the middle of the decades.
Yeah, there was a bit. They split like the decade, and it felt a bit. So I just felt like I was having a harder time. Yeah, they called this late 90s, early 2000s settings, and then the next episode is the late 2000s, which is more like The Office and that kind of thing.
Office, Modern Family, and Happy Endings.
Family. Yeah.
Right. But just before we move on, I just want to, what else? Okay, in terms of this Halloween episode, this is where like Vision's kind of trying to figure out what's going on. He sees people in these time loops, right? Like the one woman was doing the thing and
she was crying too. If you check, there was like a single tear that went down her face.
And he lies to her in this episode
about where he's going.
Yeah.
And what he's doing, right? Because he's starting not to trust her.
Yes.
Right. So they're paying off like that confrontation from the last episode that's created some they'll continue into the next episode because he won't even be around for the next episode. Because he'll be off with Darcy and whatever. But in this episode, like she also blasts fake Pietro or whatever, or Evan Peters Pietro. This is where they try to like come after Wanda with the drone, right?
No, that was the episode before.
Was that before this?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. And then
was it?
No, this is so by the end of this is where Vision was trying to leave the hex, right? And then by the end of it, like she expands the hex to
So the episode before is where she threatened Hayward as well.
Yes. Yeah. Right. We kind of skipped over that because everything with Hayward.
It's too on the nose. That's the problem. If it was like more of a like, you can just say, well, he's just a director just doing his job, and we're not seeing the bigger picture. The dude looks slimy and like I can't trust him. You just look at him. He's like, nope, he's a bad guy.
Well, I like they only hint at what his motivations are, right? And the only thing I could really piece together here was that Hawkeye is responsible for all of this because he was saying like, listen up, Monica Rambeau. Well, you were snapped for 5 years. Those of us who were here, we had to hold this place together. And we had guys like Hawkeye go around murdering everybody, right? As when he was Ronin.
You are injecting a lot of your
I'm injecting. Whoa. He was saying that like I think he's anti-superhero. And like he and I think that he has got that connection there with perhaps.
I think that putting the blame of what happened at Infinity War on the superheroes' feet at the same time, just the fact that they no longer had that support, like they're resentful, like all these they came and it was supposed to be better and now it's harder. Kind of, because
we saw like in Endgame that like for the 5 years like where Black Widow and Captain America were trying to hold things together, that it was really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, it was more Black Widow. Captain America kind of just steps aside and just occasionally come by and support her.
Yeah, he wasn't as active, but we saw that like like that they had that conference call. Remember when War Machine was there and like Captain Marvel and Michonne and all them, right? And whatever character's name is, I can't remember right now. But
so it was it was Roddy, it was Captain Marvel, it was Rocket and Michonne. Yeah.
Right. And we saw that like he was talking about like that like Hawkeye went off and was just being super murderous, killing
he was killing criminals,
Yakuzas and whatever he was up to. And so that's the only thing I could really connect with Hayward. Like I'm like maybe that's the only way I could justify why Hayward was doing the things he was doing.
Well, so just imagine you're part of an organization that's supposed to be focused on sentient weapons, right? And
why is that an organization?
Because
how many sentient weapons do you run into?
Well, it's also dealing with sentient weapons outside of Earth as well. That's why they're like outside of space as well. So it's home and abroad. Shield is supposed to take care of Earth itself, so it's a shield and sword, right? That's
sword is more external.
Sword is more external. So, and they're working with Captain Marvel. Maria Rambeau is the director, and then all of a sudden, the span of 5 years, you have the director die. Captain Marvel is barely here at all, right?
Maria Rambeau was the director.
Yeah, she completely. So they lost their connection.
Like founded it or whatever.
Yeah,
right. They lost Hayward became the director because he said he was all that was left. Like that he
in
was
terms
like,
of the management structure, yes. Nick Fury was gone, right? So all these pieces were left, and he kind of had to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, and he's resentful of it. But like then later on, when we get that flashback scene where he's showing the body of the Vision to Wanda, and they're like grinding it down with like those power
All
tools,
a show, all a show.
it was just a show. He
Yeah,
was
because they repeatedly stated they've took them apart and put together multiple times. So it just so happens that when Wanda's there, they're like pulling them apart again. It just seems very like,
that was to provoke her
yeah,
into
Yeah.
a confrontation of some kind.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Everything seemed a little bit too easy. They let her in too easy, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he's like taking her right to the Vision, calling him like what?
And even all the
He's not
stuff,
yours.
yeah, even all the stuff he said to her, you're the only one who could bring him back. Like he was leading her on he was playing her the entire time.
Yeah.
So he was manipulating her, but he couldn't have known she was going to create the hex and all of that. Like there was no way for him to
No,
predict
he
it.
was just hoping that she would bring him back to life because that's what he wanted.
So he could use that
So
to
he
do
could
what?
use Vision for his own purposes.
To kill other superheroes because he hates
Whatever
superheroes.
his
Well,
purpose
okay.
is there.
Yeah.
Because that I was trying to figure out what is Hayward's goal. He seems to just want to kill superheroes.
He mentions earlier on when he's doing the tour with Monica Rambeau that it isn't just to observe and connect with sentient weapons, right? uh, Monica was like, "We're not supposed to create them because they had advancements in nanotechnology, robotics." He was saying that they moved away from the observational and, you know, was it defense? Was it? It's they're supposed to be connecting with extraterrestrials and stuff and kind of protecting. And it seems like they were going on the offensive with in terms of their technology, right? And she was questioning that when they were doing the tour. So we're seeing that part of the practice and play, which was like making sentient weapons like this.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like I want to go back and watch this over again. Like I did watch a lot of it this again today, but I want to kind of go back, and especially this second half of the season now, just to kind of again I want to observe Hayward. What was he? Do I really buy him as a villain or not? I think is going to maybe
Do you think
redefine.
this is the last we're going to see of Hayward?
I don't think he made it. I think like yeah, in terms of this season, I don't think that he's a character you bring back necessarily. Like I think we'll see Agatha again for sure. I think she'll 100% be back. But
You want to hear my theory?
Mhm.
I think that possibly one of the next places um, we see Hayward is either in um, Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I do realize it was filmed and was supposed to air before uh, WandaVision, but that's how the cookie crumbles. Um, or we're possibly going to see him in Black Panther 2. The reason for that is I believe that Hayward's approach to humanity kind of being independent from superheroes would be in very alignment with Baron Zemo's attitudes that we're seeing from the Falcon and Winter Soldier,
Ooh,
right? And
yeah.
right, possibly technology um, could be taken from Hayward and his various attempts to kind of remove the superheroes from the equation and be used against heroes in general, and that could be like the driving force of that storyline. Next thing is, what does when uh, Wakanda is able to take a breath after what has occurred? Um, they're counting all their storage, and they're like, "We have what do you say, $4 billion worth of vibranium on the
Yeah.
loose." And why did we have the U.S. government and Sword playing around with it and using it as a weapon? Um, like, where does that come in? There should be like conversations that are had. So those are the two things I think. I don't think it's going to be a big role. I think it's going to be one that's going to be referenced upon and moved away from. he could die.
Just a connection, just like a thing. Yeah, maybe like that'd be fine. Like if they want to fill in more of the backstory on Sword, Maria Rambeau, all this kind of stuff, and Hayward's there, that would make sense, right? Like, but often they bring in these characters, like in was it an Ant-Man, right? There was like the Shield guy who then was bad, right? But they a lot of times these characters that are like we think that
he was
they're
Hydra.
He's a Hydra guy, right? Yeah. Right, like that, like you can see them coming. They never come back. Sometimes they do it this well, but I'd rather I guess I'd rather villains be more subtle and be built up.
Like Stillwell?
Like Stillwell, yeah.
Stillwell,
where you go,
Sidwell,
yeah,
right?
Stillwell. He had like 3 appearances in the movies, and then he turned out to be a Hydra guy, right? In Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I'm just trying. We're 2 hours now. We're over 2 hours and 10 minutes. We've been talking about this, or an hour and 40 minutes.
We're on episode 7.
We're on 7, so we got 3 more to go. What? Okay, we're on to 7 because so we saw that she expands the boundary at the end to save Vision, to save the kids, and then we see that Darcy, who is handcuffed to the car, she gets enveloped in this, right? And everybody was going, because it's Kat Dennings, she's got to be on Two Broke Girls. She's got to be waiting at table inside the Hex in Two Broke Girls. That was the whole thing for a week, Ashley. It was
oh my God, that's awful.
People are talking about that.
And I love that show, but that's not great.
Yeah, because they wanted, because she's from a sitcom, so they thought, well, she's gonna be in sitcom world. So that means you have to.
Yeah, I suppose, because they brought her in right about the right time for it to be Two Broke Girls.
Yeah, and I can see why people thought that, but that's not the case. They don't wake up in Two Broke Girls at all. They actually wake up in this mid to late 2000 settings, as mentioned. This is a Modern Family. This is The Office. This is the mockumentary style in general.
And happy endings, please.
And happy endings, and like what, and the Arrested Development and other shows, right? Like this was the Common and Community even.
Sorry, we're just naming shows. I got to throw that into.
Just naming shows that were at this time, but like I enjoyed this more. I enjoyed this style more than I enjoyed that Malcolm in the Middle style. This was a funner episode for me. This was interesting with this whole like circus thing, Vision and Darcy, and them being in the circus, and the side interviews and everything else that was going on here. Wanda and the kids, and sort of them becoming, because as they're approaching our current time of 2020, 2021, it was feeling more familiar to me, like, and everything else. What else we had here? Wanda doing all these, like, she was okay. Elizabeth Olsen, like, especially in this part, I think this episode, she was making me laugh a ton.
Oh yeah, so good.
She was so funny in this episode.
Yes.
The way she was delivering her dialogue, the way she was dealing with her stress, everything else, like, just the performance was amazing. Like, she's great throughout the whole show, but here I was really feeling it. Jaemeel, do you agree?
I wholeheartedly agree. I think the show in general did a great job of showcasing the abilities of these actors, these performers. And it's like, oh, well, sometimes people are kind of pigeonholed in a specific type of genre or a type of show. And here you just see them run the gauntlet so effortlessly. And they're fantastic throughout every period of time. They mold into the specific roles. Right, she's great. Like, if Julie Bowen ever bowed out, right, Elizabeth Olsen as Claire Dunphy, I would love to see that. She can do that. She, like, I'm watching this show and I'm like, these people have not been like lead performers, right? And you're seeing right there that all of these people should be like lead performers. They're great. They're fantastic.
I never would have thought, like, okay, here's Elizabeth Olsen as she appeared in Age of Ultron, and I wasn't like, she was fine in that movie, but I wasn't thinking that, like, but that was 8 years ago, right? She was 23 at the time, and she has developed into a very strong actress.
Yes.
Like I think she's got a huge future for herself. I think that like what she did in this show I was not expecting for. I was expecting a lot out of Paul Bettany, but I wasn't sure what to expect out of Elizabeth Olsen. I think she benefited by not being tied to that Transylvanian accent or that Sokovian accent a little bit too. I think that's a bit of a. I think that
them getting rid of that accent was one of the best things they've ever done in the MCU.
Well, will it stick now that she's out of the hex? Will she sort of have it again, or
she brought a little bit of it back, but she's Americanized her.
They've been phasing it out for a while. It hasn't been as strong as it was in Ultron through each of the movies. It's been slowly phasing out, and I think this is going to help phase it out, but she does bring it in a little bit in some scenes where she gets emotional, or you can hear it, like she purposely brings it in a little bit, but they're phasing it out, and they've been phasing it out for several movies.
Good thing Sokovia is a fictional country.
That's right.
So you're offend the.
She's just been living too long with the Avengers, and she's becoming Americanized. The accent.
Yeah, fair enough, and that happens to people in real life, even after they go through weird reality hex things. Maybe more so. This episode also had Monica Rambeau trying to enter the hex after she got out with this vehicle. And this was kind of the episode where she got her powers, because she said that she was in the hex and then she got knocked out, and going back in, Darcy, who's super smart now, she's an astrophysicist, she was saying this is changing your cells at a molecular level, I think, and we see that Monica will get full-blown superpowers by the end of this, or in this episode. But there was a lot of disappointment from the community, because she said, I'm going to see this was it an engineer of some kind of aerospace
I have an engineer that can help me build this.
Yeah, she says this in the previous episode, in the Halloween episode. We have to go, come on, Jimmy, woo, we got to go find this engineer. And it was like, oh, is it Mr. Fantastic? Is it John Krasinski? Is Mr. Fantastic? Is it people thought it could be a big cameo, like a roadie, like War Machine or something.
Well, he's not an astrophysicist. I was hoping it was Fitzsimmons. That's it from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
No, that's not who I was hoping it was going to be. But it ends up being this military officer who's also an engineer.
Is it?
I don't know. Who else would it be? Like,
she doesn't meet the. It's possible that she never really meet the physicist. They did that scene, and they didn't stress any type of importance in whoever, like, people's roles.
Whoever built it.
Yeah. They just said, "Oh, here's the person who's kind of bringing to us. Hi, we're loyal to you," and they just kind of move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, like.
The only problem with that, and I understand your disappointment, is that the Monica Rambeau's actress actually stated that you guys won't believe who they got for the engineer, who the engineer is, kind of implying that it is important.
But they were trolling through. Paul Bettany trolled too when he did the interview.
He said that you guys won't believe the cameo.
I've been waiting for years to do a scene with this person.
Yeah,
it was him.
It was him.
Yeah. But that caused a crazy amount of internet outrage. Like, just him.
I think it's hilarious, and I love it.
I think it was great. I'm not complaining, but a lot of people.
Ever.
Yeah, it's so fun. I love the misdirects and stuff that sometimes happens.
At the same time, these performers, it's not like they had like a premiere and they watched the show. They probably never saw the final cut of the show. So they and it was mentioned, there was a whole bunch of side plots that were cut that did not get included. So we don't know if there was something that was important. Like Captain Marvel was filmed in a scene for Age of Ultron, right? And they had a stand-in play Captain Marvel until they figured out what they were going to do. They decided to cut it all together. Now, what happens if Elizabeth Olsen said, "You guys won't believe who's in the final team of Avengers at the end of Age of Ultron," and then got what we had at the end of Age of Ultron, people would be angry, right?
So
Well,
your point
what
is
if
don't
Ul-
listen to actors. 'Cause they
That's-
don't
What if
know.
Ultron
That's
doesn't even know what
possible.
movie she's in?
That's possible for what happened with this one with the physicist or whatever. That is not what Paul Bettany was getting at.
No.
He was
No.
trolling.
Paul Bettany was just there was a whole subplot with Cedar Scratchy. There was supposed to be one,
Senior Scratchy.
and they cut it.
I want to know what's going on with Senior Scratchy. That was my biggest unanswered question.
We might find
So
out.
like, maybe, yeah.
Just on this episode too, this is this is where Agatha reveals herself. This is where she reveals she's the villain all along. By the end of this episode, we get the theme song we mentioned here, and that she has the 2 kids in the chokehold, right? By the end of the episode.
Yes.
And she's revealed to be the full villain. And you're like, okay, whoa. And when
We see the book too.
The book, we see the book. Yeah, that's right.
And I was like, it's the Darkhold. And you're like, it's not the Darkhold.
As mentioned, we saw Monica Rambeau go through the barrier because the car tries to go through and then she doesn't get through. And then she kind of gets through and gets she's changed somehow. And now she has magic too, right? Is that what's happened?
No. Her abilities is either Spectrum or Proton. She's able to absorb energy and has a similar power set like Captain Marvel does as well, but she can also like manipulate energy and matter a little bit.
Okay, I'm interested to see like what the rules of her powers are, as if they'll define that more.
You can see how she was able to view the spectrum changed of her vision depending on her eye level.
She can kind of see like magic and extra dimensional energies or whatever you want to call it.
Yep,
she's aware of those things.
We'll find out more in Captain Marvel too.
Find out more in Captain Marvel too. I'm ready for it. And then in the next 2, the next episode 8 is called Previously On. This is it starts with a flashback to 1693 in Salem, Massachusetts, and then we see that Agatha is there. We find out she's super old. She's obviously keeping herself going with the magic. That's not too unusual. But however, I was thinking 1693 and like magic and back then and immortality. It was like, okay, like now they're going back here, and there's more. It's interesting to see if they explore these other time periods more as they go on in MCU.
It's the earliest recorded history of the MCU.
It's one of them. Like the only other thing I can think of is like the scene of Anthony Hopkins as Odin, like on Earth in like that Thor flashback.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Right, like, but very little like going to Earth in these olden times, especially for magical stuff like this. But this scene was very interested, and it's led by it's her, what do you call that, a harem, like when your coven, right?
Coven.
The coven,
Harem.
not the harem, the coven. The coven.
Yes.
The coven, and basically what happens is her mother's like, "You're evil. You're using the dark magic," and she's like, and anyway, but Agatha gets the drop on it, and she sucks all their energy in and becomes super powerful.
Do you believe? Okay.
Right, that's kind of her back. We get her backstory, I guess, in some sense, and she wears.
People have different theories.
This brooch, like this thing she takes off her mother. This that we see her wearing all the time. That's kind of like a big part of her costume. And this is mostly like fill-in stuff in this episode where Agatha's learning how Wanda became magical, how the Mind Stone gave her powers, what happened. This is like the flashbacks with her parents, right? And like the bomb, the Stark bomb, and all those things are shown here. And this is mostly exposition, catching us up, but I find it pretty satisfying overall. Like this episode really moved a lot ahead because it was giving us answers for things we've been building up for the 7 episodes. A lot of the answers we've been waiting for come in this episode. And I think it was like the perfect amount of episodes. And then now that we kind of know everything, now here's the 9th episode, and this is where the final act of the show is. And not to like, unless you guys want the only thing that might be worth also mentioning on this mid credits or on this episode or previously on the 8th episode was the mid credits scene where we saw the white vision. He's shown at the very end of that, so we know
Yes.
that he's coming here.
Yeah. So they use the energies from the um uh, the drone that Wanda kind of stopped and drug outside of the hex when she threatened Hayward. That they used the energy from that, siphoned it into the carcass of Vision of old to create White Vision, and he comes alive.
Yes, and you're like, uh-oh. And then we know there's going to be a vision on vision fight, which there's exactly that in the next episode. Because the next episode is as Agatha's trying to take Wanda's magic, but the vision shows up, and then this white vision tries to kill Wanda, right? By crushing her skull. Which is kind of this moment until other vision shows up, Hex Vision shows up, and then they have the battles. And this is a lot of like the more traditional superhero battle episode, this final act. I liked it. I saw some people complaining online about all of the pew pew and people going around on wires in the sky.
But I liked it. Like, that's what Wanda is, going around in wires in the sky.
Well, yeah, this is what superheroes are.
Well, yeah.
But there was emotional stakes at play. It wasn't just mindless violence where they're just punching each other's face and, bro, punch me harder. No, man, I'm gonna beat you by punching you harder in the face. Right? Technically, both of them used their minds to solve this issue.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, they did.
But there was also the emotional scene of all the people who lived in the town descending on Wanda.
That was great. Like,
oh my God.
You're torturing us. If you're not going to let us go, just let us die.
Yeah. Joe Rupp gets that line. Oh, yeah. I liked in the making of too, where they were like, where she gets choked by the stuff, and that was like outside of what Joe Rupp normally would do, and she's like, "This is amazing."
How excited she was to do it,
yeah, how to get like choked out by by Wanda's energy. But no, that scene was great, and I think that because we also get all these teases here from Agatha about how Wanda is the Scarlet Witch and how that's bad, and she's going to bring the end of the world, and ultimately, what do you think the long-term plan for Wanda is here? Is she a villain long-term? Because I think she's always going to straddle this line.
So I think. Go ahead, Ashley.
No, you go. Go. I want to see what you say.
Canadian stand-up. Okay, I think that MCU is trying to move away from these clear-cut bad guys and having villains that might be something that we can understand their perspective but not necessarily agree. And in this case, you have Wanda, who has been emotionally through the ringer. She has lost her family multiple times and is now trying to grasp what she can or what connectivity she has to her family, her children that came from her body but are no longer corporeal, and in doing so she is manipulated by other forces to do wrong, right? And at the end of that, lashes out at the world, resulting in massive changes to the universe. So that's what I think is going to happen for Wanda. Could be a little house of M.
Could be okay. Actually, do you know of the House of M storyline?
I don't.
Okay. Well, I don't know how much I need to tell you, but it's that's about mutants and about how powerful Wanda's powers can be, because she has this ability to in the comic books to affect reality, to change probabilities and whatever. And we saw that this is obviously this wasn't part of her power set originally when they brought her into the MCU, but it's definitely part of her power set now. Yeah. And so she has the ability to sort of like change all of reality in big ways.
Yeah, she's a Nexus being.
Okay.
That's where that
A
commercial came
Nexus
from.
level being. Yeah, and so how much of this is going to come true with Agatha, and if somehow Wanda is the next, not even just a villain, but a threat that the Avengers might have to deal with at some point.
I mean, I can see that happening. I think there is definitely going to be a long arc with Wanda and what happens. I think we're going to go into, I mean, she wasn't good in this. You can argue that she was the villain of WandaVision. She tortured those people. She's at fault quite a bit in this series. So I think there is going to be an arc, and whether or not there's a redemption at the end, we'll see. But I can see them setting up for her immense powers being a big problem for the MCU for a while.
Right. Well, they were even in like Civil War, like
Yeah.
they were like, we have to lock her up. She's too powerful, like you
Yeah.
know. And Captain America was like,
But I think that's now that she's studying the Darkhold, and now that she has learned more about what she can do, I think that may become a bigger problem.
true. The Darkhold is the book, right?
Yes.
Yes, that is the book. Yes.
I heard there was a Darkhold on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. too, though.
And Runaways.
Is it the same Darkhold?
That is up for Kevin Feige to
That's
determine.
for Kevin Feige to work out.
Determine.
Okay, we'll leave
But
that.
it doesn't necessarily not ring true. It could be the same book. It could be a different book. It could be connected. It could not be connected. But as of right now, in terms of its, ambiguity of the timeline, it could be. Who knows? You don't lose anything from it not being the Darkhold and connected to S.H.I.E.L.D. You don't gain that much by it being connected either.
Okay. But yeah, we were just on that. We were on that scene with the whole confrontation in the in like the town square with the people, and then she lets them go, and this kind of like kicks off the big battle that we get again in this final act here. Well, I also loved it. The other thing I thought was amazing in that making of was how they were in that like town square, and how Catherine Hahn was like actually up there on top of the building, and they were doing the scene like that. Like,
I didn't see the behind the scenes thing. Did she sing? Did she?
No, she didn't sing. I don't remember she was singing.
It was like a reference to the Beatles, and
yeah, no, but she's on the rooftop, and it was just like, and she says like it was amazing to do that scene coming from Elizabeth Olsen's point of view, because it just felt like this grand cinematic day, right? Where you can because you could do the scene with Catherine Hahn like in that kind of crazy way, like just like they do in the story.
Yeah.
And that was cool to see. Like, because sometimes they don't know. Sometimes like she could be on a green screen, she could be somewhere else. I don't know what to trust anymore. What I see in terms of a set and how if the actors are even in the same room with each other. But so these behind the scene things sometimes can really like pay that off for me. I find just knowing what process was used, or like just the same thing with that live studio audience and them doing the scenes like live and cutting from one to the other. Like I think like that can have that can bring the actors more into the moment, you know. Where do we go? We're getting through the end here. Just the final battles. We have the Vision talking to the Vision in the library for maybe a little longer, too long, maybe.
What do you mean too long? I think it was just the appropriate amount of time.
It was perfect, Jaemeel. It was exactly.
The whole time I was watching that scene, all I could think was, is Hex Vision gonna Captain Kirk White Vision and like talk him into self-destructing? Like
I just wanted your primary objective.
Just smoke coming out of White Vision's ears because
I wanted them to be remerged, and I wanted them to. That's what I wanted in the moment. That didn't happen.
Too easy.
I guess it's too easy. It will be worth the payoff when it happens.
It kind of did. He gave him his memories,
and he goes, "I am Vision," and he just flies away. Where did he go?
Yeah, he gives him his memories. He's got the little yellow lights up. We'll see what happens.
He could have, if he's good again, he could have helped.
Okay, you're under the impression just because he has his memories doesn't mean he has emotional ties to these individuals.
That's
he just knows of them. It's just memories.
I think
Yeah,
he's gonna have an arc too, where he has to sort through this stuff.
Do you think he'll be like the Sam Winchester without a soul,
Yes,
right? And he's got to get his soul back.
he's got to get his soul back.
Yeah, season 6. Watch it, Supernatural.
He's going to Jamaica to meet Stella.
As long as there's no like dog and stuff, it's fine.
Yeah.
Come on. If there was a TV show, 3 episodes, how Vision got his groove back, well, he goes to Jamaica.
Yeah,
and it's
that'd
him.
be fine. They would just went a one-off. Yeah.
You're gonna be thinking about that for a while.
Right.
That's right. I'll watch it.
The final ending of this story, though, like when she beats, do you guys think the way she beats Agatha, or she defeats Agatha in the end, do you think it's satisfying?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Where it looks like she's gonna suck all her power out, but no, it was actually she turns
There's
the tables.
runes.
Yeah.
I mean, she turned her own magic on her.
Yeah.
I have questions about the way that this stuff ended, though.
Okay.
So she traps Agatha in this nosy neighbor thing, but then collapses the hex.
Right.
So that's character is gone? Like what?
No, like the spell was separate.
Okay, so she trapped her. Basically, she created like almost like a mini hex in Agatha's head.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, trapped Agatha inside of that of like a mini hex of sorts.
Okay.
And we're just over her, so she's in that character role, and you can see like the pain behind her eyes when she puts her in there. Like she's like,
"Oh, neighbor,
artichoke," and all that. It's so fun. It's like the range on her is amazing.
Oh yeah, she's incredible.
Yeah, I'd say one of the best villains the MCU has had.
Yes, and I hope they bring her back multiple times.
Yeah,
she was fantastic. I would watch so much more of just her.
Yeah, I think I like even like the act that Scarlet Witch does by putting her inside of that versus like, I don't know, trying to take her to some kind of a prison or some kind of thing like that.
She knows
maybe
these
the Sorcerer Supreme.
These people always escape from prison. She's got to create a prison in her head.
Speaking of the Sorcerer Supreme, she says in the episode, "You're more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme." So that's definitely going to play into this next Doctor Strange movie.
Oh yes.
Yeah, where we're going to see maybe Scarlet Witch mess him up. And what else? Is that it? Really? Like then
Post credits.
Goodbye. Well, there's the credits, but okay. When Wanda says goodbye she says goodbye to Vision and the twins, and that's really emotional and sad. And then, but she also says goodbye to Monica, and I was like, why doesn't Monica arrest her? I guess she can't.
What? Yes, please, Miss Reality, warping powers, lady. I need to arrest you.
I'm sure there's something in the Sokovia Accords that would cover it.
I think there was a whole lot like Sokovia Accords. I don't think covers creating a weapon of that nature without informing the UN.
No, it probably doesn't. They might need.
I don't think a Wakanda is going to be appreciative of you making a weapon out of their materials.
Wait, do the Wakandans own all vibranium, or they have claim to all vibranium?
They've gone and recovered vibranium. That's
they consider it theirs. They consider it to be their material
to ensure that the use is not misused. And this is a grand example of it being misused.
Yeah.
Because like Captain America is able to have a shield. He's a friend of Wakanda, even though it's technically his shield is not all vibranium. But the only other pieces of vibranium are Winter Soldier's arm, right? The Vision, and then you had Claw before he died, his hand, right? And how did he lose his hand in the first place? Is because he was found smuggling, and he had his hand. No, he lost his hand in the Age of Ultron. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
that was the
claw.
other.
Here's my claw.
I'm mixing up the stories. The comic story.
But then is it Michael B. Jordan?
Yeah, he
And
killed him.
kills him. Just see you later. See you later, Undertakers. Okay, so the ending. Yeah, they can't really do anything. We see Hayward is arrested because Darcy smashed into him in the end there. She doesn't even have a goodbye. She's just like,
And
no,
Wu
she said,
calls his FBI buddies within the hour.
yeah. There's Jimmy
Cliff.
Woo. Everyone plays their role really well. This whole cast was great. There was nobody I disliked at all. There was nothing
Hayward.
that I felt was bad. I can't say much. I can't say anything bad about this show. Really, like there. I have nitpicks, but they are very minor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This show, this whatever this is, because it's like I even looked it up on the Marvel Cinematic Universe wiki, and they don't even classify it in the same way they classify Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the other TV programs, right? They classify it as just Disney Plus, right?
Mhm.
And it's because it's not quite a movie. It's not
It's a
quite
miniseries.
TV. It's not quite TV. It's miniseries, I guess.
It's a miniseries.
Yeah, and it's this is my preferred thing, because my biggest issue with movies, as much as I love watching movies in a theater, I love that experience. Sometimes I just want more content. I want more story. Sometimes you can't get this in 2 hours into a feature, and so I want, depends on what it is, but I want more sometimes, and this was an example I think was smart, and I'm hoping that's going to continue to pay off as we get these other shows like The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is probably the one I'm the least excited about of all of these ones they announced, because it's more like in that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of like
you're like using Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as a negative thing, a show that you have not watched.
No, but it's what I mean by that is it's a show about not so super people. Like
he has a super suit, and you have a guy
with a metal arm, and you got a guy who flies around and goes.
It's like,
Yeah, but
so what's the difference between him and Iron Man?
And Bucky is super as Captain America is. He also has that serum in him.
Yeah. He's not as powerful as the Vision and the Scarlet Witch, though. So he's.
But he's like,
where's Thanos in the series? He's super powerful.
Right. Like, yeah.
He's a super soldier.
I'll give it a shot. You know, I know Baron Zemo's coming back, so that's exciting. So
Agent 13 is going to be back too.
Agent 13? Was that the one that Captain America was kissing?
Sharon Carter, yes.
Yes. Yeah. You know, he went back.
We don't talk about that. We don't talk about
her aunt or whatever. Okay. But that's okay. Yeah. It's all good. Okay, so that's us. We've talked about all the episodes now.
Yeah.
And the whole story. So I don't know if there's anything left. But
ratings.
Are
we doing a rating system?
How do you want to rate this? Do you want to rate the whole show? Do you want to rate every episode?
No, rate the entire show.
Okay, let's rate the entire show. I will just
Dave, give it a 10.
You're giving it a 10?
No, I said you're going to give it a 10.
I probably will.
I gave you everything. I gave you costume changes. It wasn't Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. All the big things that you want from a show.
I need to get a rating spreadsheet ready. I don't have one ready.
There's no pressure right now. We can always come back to it.
No, we'll forget. We'll forget if we don't do it now.
It's permanent in podcast and video form.
That's true. You mean like I can come back and watch this again?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, let's try that.
Folks, if you're watching this, you can watch it again.
You can watch it again. I just thought it was this one time, but it's here forever. I would give this a 10.
Okay. I will give it an 8.5.
Okay, Jameel's giving 8.5, and Ashley, what's your score for the season?
I give it a 9.5.
9.5. Yeah. Okay. So that's
9.
quickly in my head. It's a pretty high rating. It's like a
9.25, I think.
9.25 or something around that range. Yeah, like deservedly so. I think this is I want to go back and watch more of this. This is a lot exciting. I really enjoyed talking to you two about it. And here's my next question. Will there be a season 2 of this?
No.
I think this was just a bridge.
I don't know. I think there will be some kind of a sequel. I don't know if it will be a movie. I don't know if it's going to be a series, but I think that the success of this,
if they do, they'll do a bunch of movies in between and then maybe do a mini series after
Agatha
several.
Vision.
Agatha Vision.
It was Agatha all along, is what it should be called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if I think that we will see more of this, because I just think that, but they can't do it again. They can't go back and do
They
sitcoms
can't.
again, and
It's not going to be the
no.
same thing. So
you can't do it twice, right?
And the last episode was called the series finale.
It was called the series, not the season finale. It was called the series finale. So yeah, we thought, because at the top we said the WandaVision season 1. It might be the only season. It might be just this mini series, and that's it. And that's fine if it is. But I also I would like to see at least more of these characters, or more focus on these characters, or come back to them again soon. And I don't think I have to wish for that too hard, because I think we are going to get that anyway. And I think that the quest to find Tommy and Billy, it's got to happen. They're in Mephisto's realm or something.
Yeah, hanging out with Tina, Zach, Jason,
Trini,
Kimberly. Yeah,
don't forget Trini, the Yellow Ranger.
Yeah,
she died. And we're not talking Power Rangers, but
are we not?
If you want to.
Primary colors they wore all the time. I'm just saying.
They did. There was all. I was a Green Ranger. I liked all the Rangers, but I was a big Green Ranger. I even have a Green Ranger on my desk. Anyway, I digress. Okay, so then, do you think that Falcon and the Winter Soldier will be better? Do you think you'll like it more or less than this?
I think it's going to be different, and so trying to compare the two isn't fair.
I'm just. I think your expectations. What are you expecting?
I'm expecting it to kind of set the status quo for Earthbound movies, honestly. Because
it's not in the magic world. This is going to be much more like gritty, like Falcon or like Captain America Winter Soldier style, like that kind of action, probably, right?
Yep.
Like Patriot games, like Hunt for the Red October, all those kind of thriller.
I think that Black Widow is going to be referencing Falcon and Winter Soldier, or it's going to tie into each other.
But the show's coming out before the movie, which was supposed to always
supposed to be before the movie.
Yeah, so I'm sure they probably just had to rewrite it or figure it out. But
didn't all of them get delayed?
Well, Black Widow would have come out by now, right?
Sorry, it was supposed to be Black Widow, then Falcon, then WandaVision.
Yeah. So WandaVision should have come third in this.
Yes, Black Widow was supposed to come out May 2020.
And so that's probably been the reason. But then now the order is completely reversed. Now we had WandaVision, Falcon, and then Black Widow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still think those gonna tie into each other.
And the Black Widow movie is a prequel.
Yep.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. And we'll be here to talk about it. Because that will be the new thing. When there's new movies, there's new series on Marvel Cinematic Universe starting Friday, March 12th, 2021. We'll be talking about it. Or some of us will be. Whoever's available for that podcast. And that's exciting. I'm excited. I like talking about this universe. I like talking about these characters. I like talking about where it's going to go, and giving praise to some of the best in the business of all entertainment out there. Like these are I can't say enough about everything about this show. Like the cast, the crew, everybody was top notch.
The music, commercials.
Yes.
Good on you, Disney. Good on you, Marvel.
They nailed it.
You nailed it. Okay. Then let's we can wrap up this night. I know Jameel's got to get going anyway. So let's just we'll plug our shows. And we have been here for 2 hours and 47 minutes or whatever it is at this point.
Okay. So I'm gonna drop out for this, but yes, I will see you on Monday. Listen to Dave as he plugs our shows.
Yes, thank you, Jaemeel. You have a great night. This is our 5th night in a row, I think, podcasting, right?
You too.
4th. See ya. Okay.
If I can leave.
If you can. Ashley.
I'm here. Let's plug them.
Let's plug them. Okay. Well, guess what's coming up next? Super Mater. Okay, so first of all, if you're here on Super Mater Brothers podcasting, you may be aware we do Big Brother recaps. Jaemeel and I, we talk about that Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Big Brother Canada specifically, if you're a Canadian. Big Brother Canada 9 more specifically. It's getting late. I'm starting to forget all my things. But I'm going to try to remember. So we do that 3 times a week. Check that out. We also did Survivor seasons. We've done Westworld. So this is more of our TV and movies channel that's not specific to Star Trek, because we have another channel for that. That's called Live Long and Podcast, and that's our Star Trek channel where we talk about Deep Space Nine on Tuesdays. On Wednesdays, we talk about original series. We've talked about everything, movies, Picard, Discovery, all of it. And we do a fun thing called Star Trek Radio Theater as well, where we reenact the scripts. We read the scripts with our crew here. This one's going to be on Ashley's birthday, Sunday, March 14th, and she gets to give birth for her birthday. How lucky for you, as Keiko O'Brien, Ashley.
Oh, so excited. I'm going to be so whiny.
We're going to be doing the Star Trek Next Generation episode Disaster, which was from its 5th season, which this first aired in 1991. So we're going to be, our crew will be reading these parts in the various roles. I'm going to be playing Chief Miles O'Brien, as mentioned. Ashley's playing my wife, Keiko. So we're not together for most of the episodes.
And Kevin gets to birth our child.
Yeah, and he gets to deliver the child. So there's all kinds of things going on. Check that out Sunday night. Disaster, we're calling it. And
that's the name of the episode.
Yes. And our third channel, which is called Trivial Debates, where we argue about movies, TV, sports. We do a round on each thing. There's a host, there's 3 contestants. It's a lot of fun. Check that out. That's on the last Sunday of every month. Jaemeel just won our last one. Jeff was hosting. So check out all of our channels and all of our content if you like anything we do, which how could you not? All right. Well, that's it for WandaVision. Ashley and Jaemeel and Kevin. I think you're there. Thanks.
Yeah, he's listening.
He's listening. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the question, Jane. And we'll be here to talk about Falcon and Winter Soldier in like 12 weeks or whatever. So we'll see you then.